Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monroe Township Zoning Board meeting of June 25th, 2024. Please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Announcement of the Sunshine Law. In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, it is hereby announced and shall be entered into the minutes of this meeting that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the following: posted on the bulletin board, excuse me, of the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin boards within the municipal complex, printed in the Home News Tribune and Cranberry Press on December 29, 2023, posted on the Monroe Township website, and sent to those individuals who have requested personal notice. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Carey?
Present.
Mr. Lupo?
Here.
Mr. Masters?
Here.
Mr. Busman?
Here.
Ms. Territori?
Here.
Mr. Tanzi?
Here.
Mr. Jackie?
Here.
Mr. Cole? Mr. Dukes?
Yes.
Chairman LaFatta?
Here. Okay, board members, we have our minutes from our meeting held on May 28th. Do I have an approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Busman abstained, he was absent. Okay, our first application, BA-5239-23, NJ Cars. Anyone who's here for that particular hearing, it will not be held tonight. It's going to be re-noticed, and it's moved to the August meeting. They inadvertently advertised in the wrong paper, and therefore proper public notice was not sent out. So again, BA 5239-23, New Jersey Cars, will not be heard tonight. They will be held August meeting, and they will be required to renotice. Thank you. Next application tonight, BA-5248-24, CT 107, Shared Commercial. Please come forward.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Board. Thomas Carroll of the law firm of Phil Wallach on behalf of the applicants.
Thank you, counsel. Just for the record, we'd like a copy of the transcript, please.
Certainly.
Thank you. And when you do speak, just speak into the mic so we can pick you up, because everything is being recorded.
Shall I proceed?
You may proceed. Just use that microphone if you don't mind, please.
Yes. The first order of business, we had sent in the affidavit of mailing and publication. I think we emailed it and FedExed it. So just I guess initial question, is the board have jurisdiction over this
Mr.
matter?
Chairman, for the record, I've reviewed the affidavit of mailing and publication, and the board does have jurisdiction to hear the matter.
You may proceed.
I'm happy to hear we did it in the right newspaper. So just to briefly summarize the application, I think, you folks are pretty much familiar with it. It's for Taco Bell in the HD Business District, utilizing the Village Center overlay zoning. It's for preliminary and final site plan approval for the Taco Bell, along with some variances and design waivers. Just to be clear, there's no request before you on this application concerning the bank. This is just for the Taco Bell. So what's approved for the bank remains, and it's not proposed to be modified at this time. We're gonna have, three witnesses, at least three, probably three. Our site engineer, Jim Henry, planner, Andrew Jano, and a traffic consultant, Scott Kennel. And if the board has no questions of me, I propose to get right into the testimony with Mr. Henry, our site engineer.
Okay, counsel, you indicated that you're not talking or doing anything with the bank this evening?
Not this evening.
That seems to be was on the application. Proposed restaurant and bank with drive-through?
Yes, but nothing is proposed to be changed for the bank. That would remain as it is. This particular tax lot was approved for a restaurant and a bank, but the only changes requested tonight are for the Taco Bell. The bank would remain the same.
Okay.
Through our attorney, I guess my question is this not a site plan for the bank as well, or what are we doing?
I'm not sure the bank has final site plan approval.
Right.
Okay.
I don't think we're requesting it.
Yeah, it's just, excuse me.
You
I
need
believe
to
we're,
be, you need to be
Yeah.
sworn in before we go anywhere.
Do you swear any testimony you provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can state your name, spell your last name for the record, please.
James Henry, Henry,
And your address, please.
1904 Main Street, Lake Como, New Jersey, from Dynamic Engineering.
Should be qualifications briefly, just to get that out of the way.
Sure. I have a Bachelor's of Science from Rutgers University in Civil Engineering with a minor in Public Planning from the Blaustein School. I have a Master's of Science in Civil Engineering from Rutgers University as well. I'm a licensed professional engineer in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, as well as New York.
Okay, yeah, we'll accept your credentials.
Great, thank you.
The question as to the bank.
Sure. So as far as the bank is concerned, I believe we're going for preliminary approval tonight, and we're likely going to have a phase line, which is going to go down one of the drive aisles, which is going to be the part of the bank that's not going to be part of the site that's not going to be constructed. So we are going for preliminary approval tonight, but we're going for preliminary and final for the Taco Bell piece.
Okay, because I think what council just said was for Taco Bell. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And now we're doing the
I
bank.
believe we're going for preliminary approval for the bank, and then, but we're not. We're planning to phase out that construction as part of a second phase.
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't the bank previously
Yeah,
preliminarily?
so the bank was previously approved. We have modified
Preliminary.
some of the site elements on the plans that were submitted, and then we have a further minor revision tonight with an exhibit. But the bank, more or less, the square footage is the same as it was previously approved.
Right, but if we're adjusting something outside, isn't that a site plan now? If they altered something from what we agreed?
Are you, Mr. Chair, are you subdividing the lot to separate the
No.
bank from the Taco Bell?
No,
So-
no,
So it's a site,
It's just site
through
plan.
our
It's just
attorney,
gonna
I
be a
guess it's a
phased
site
site
plan for the entire lot with both the bank and Taco
Well,
Bell.
Yeah. Again, I think the bank was previously preliminarily approved, right? And tonight, the request before you is for preliminary and final approval for the Taco Bell, but really not proposing final approval tonight for the bank. Is that clear?
For our attorney, how do we do that? It's one lot.
I mean,
I was under the, and I think we were under the impression, based on the application, that you're in for amended preliminary and final approval for both the bank and the Taco Bell on one lot to get a site plan approval. Is that not what you're here for?
Well, that's my understanding. Hey, granted, this is a tad confusing. The notice, I did, is, does not specifically request final for the bank. It's just for the Taco Bell. Now, if need be, we would request it, I suppose, but we're not proposing any changes for the prior approval for the bank.
yeah, I was just saying, the final doesn't need an advertisement if they haven't changed the bank aspect of it, and they're going to address everything that needed to be addressed on preliminary in order to satisfy final. They should be okay. If they want to change the bank at any point in the future, they need to come back with an amendment, for the same reason that they've got preliminary and final with respect to the site sort of for the Taco Bell aspect of it. They're not changing the bank aspect of it, so that footprint's remaining the same, I would imagine, and the logistics of that portion of the use are remaining the same.
Right.
But how are we defining the Taco Bell area?
I think your mic's on, Mika.
He said, how are we defining the Taco Bell area if there's no subdivision?
Well, it's not, I don't want to advocate for the applicant, but I guess what the argument is the Taco Bell's, the footprint of the Taco Bell is changing, and certain aspects of the site are changing to accommodate the Taco Bell. The bank aspects are, the portions of the bank site are remaining the same, or the portions of the site associated with the bank use are remaining the same, and they're seeking final approval for both, so to speak.
We understand we would have to return to require final approval for the bank. We understand that.
Okay, so my question is, we established the footprint of the bank is remaining the same. By altering the Taco Bell, is it changing any of the roadways, any directionals, any parking, anything of that nature?
Yes,
So then the restaurant falls under, the bank falls under a site plan because you're altering something, even though the building's not changing, you could be altering something that impedes the operation of the bank. Am I correct?
well, if I could we leave this, I'm a little bit handicapped. Can we leave this to our witnesses to explain further?
I think it's a legal matter, isn't it? And we're not gonna go listen to testimony if it's something that it has to be done at one point.
I mean, couldn't we go for preliminary and final and then just have it a phased development? Phase
No,
one, phase
They
two,
can-
In other words, preliminary final for both the Taco
both,
Bell
and
and the
then we'll
bank.
do phase one,
Yeah,
phase
we
two,
could.
and then if we want to modify the bank approval as part of phase two, we could come back for that.
Well, I mean, I know everything was approved, but because it's being changed, should this application be bifurcated? Come for their preliminary, and then they would have to come back, and at that point, they should know what's going on with the bank, where now it's a complete, because it's one site.
Well,
Nika, what's your opinion? I need some help.
Yeah, I mean, the concern is, first of all, it's not, there's no subdivision. So there is, even if we say the building footprint and the Taco Bell building are the new things and nothing is changing, how do we define where portion of Taco Bell site plan ends and where portion of bank starts? I mean, it's a common site. Everything is flowing through and through. So it's an overall site plan of this particular block and lot.
I can show you the line where you can build up to where it doesn't affect the site doesn't affect the bank.
And, but how we define, like, for example, how we saying it in resolution? How are we gonna say
You
only
can
this
say,
portion?
you can say basically the western side of the center drive aisle, the center driveway is the limit of where phase one will be, because it includes the drive aisle that goes out to Market Street, and it includes the trash enclosure for Taco Bell. And then anything beyond that to the west of the westerly, the center drive aisle would be the bank. The Taco Bell, in order to function, does not need anything west of the Market Street driveway, the center driveway. Anything west of that is not needed for the Taco Bell to function.
But the dumpster is
The dump-
technically in the parking lot of the bank, right?
Well, it's shared parking, so it's
Okay, so how about we do this? Mark and Meeker, are you okay if we go with preliminary and not final site plan tonight? So then you guys would have time to review anything that's put before us before they come back again?
here's a practical consideration. The Taco Bell, they're ready to go, right? And we need the approval to make that happen. There is no tenant yet for the bank. So, to put the Taco Bell on some bifurcated timeframe, bollocks that up.
Okay, so Mark and Meeker, have you guys reviewed the entire property for final site plan, or you just been concentrating on the Taco Bell? Is your reports tonight based on Taco Bell, or is it a final site plan?
Mine is based on both the bank and the Taco Bell as per the application that they submitted.
Yeah, we've looked at some of the parking requirements and everything for both.
So you guys, and we'll just move forward with it because you established that you looked at the whole entire property, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
we've
yeah,
asked
okay.
questions
Right,
on
so-
building height for the bank and everything.
Okay, so no additional notice would be needed because now the whole property is being,
Well, the notice, does the notice cover the bank for final?
Well, you don't need to notice for final, so. The only thing they noticed for was essentially the fact that the nature of the restaurant use on the site, because the easterly portion of the site that was gonna house the restaurant use has been reduced in size, and, the nature of the restaurant's changed. It was supposed to be a 10,000 square foot restaurant, and now it's somewhere in the 2,000 square foot range, and it's got a drive-through. So I think that's the nature of why they're coming back for preliminary with respect to that aspect of the use. And then really it's the whole site is preliminary, because you guys are looking at it, and then final for both, but they didn't need to notice for the bank because the aspects of the bank use haven't changed in size or requirements. Make sense? Make sense, Counselor?
Yes.
okay with that, Mika?
Yeah.
Mark?
I'm good. I'm good with that because the bank did change based on the maps that I was looking at. Layout has changed since the old approval. So if we clean that all up now, that works.
Agreed.
Right.
Okay, before we go any further, if you folks in the back, if you're here for the CARS application, it was carried to August. They notified in the wrong paper, so they will not be. Yes, they will not be heard till August. They advertised in the wrong newspaper. They need to advertise in the correct paper, so therefore it wasn't properly noticed. Okay? You're welcome, you too. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Henry, back to where we were. If you could just begin by summarizing the application and best you can, advising the board on what we're seeking today.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate the board for accepting my credentials. And just give you a little bit more of my background. I've worked at Dynamic for almost 20 years. I've focused on QSR development. I've worked on probably 50 to 100 different QSRs
We accepted you
throughout New
already. You
Jersey.
can-
I just want to give you my background. I'm very, very familiar with how QSRs operate, quick serve restaurants. I worked at the Starbucks across the way, which I'm going to bring up tonight, and then also, obviously, this is a proposed Taco Bell. So I appreciate the board for accepting my credentials. I'm going to start off with just getting everyone familiar with the surrounding uses. Let me pull up aerial exhibit.
So this is something that we have not seen before?
Yes.
Okay, if we could mark that as A1. Yes. And Mr. Henry, if you could just describe what A1 is?
Sure. Should I?
You can pull that out. You're gonna walk with that. It's your best friend tonight.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So the parcel is identified as Block 4, Lot 15. The property is
Mr.
located.
Henry, what exactly is A1?
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. A1 is aerial map exhibit dated June 25th, 2024, prepared by Dynamic Engineering, and it's updated version. It's an updated version of the aerial map. I believe it's sheet 2 of the site plan. We updated the aerial so that it reflects current site conditions as far as the Starbucks development, which is just to the east of the site. So just going over the parcel, it's Block 4, Lot 15. For the purposes of this exhibit, A1 north is facing up. To the south of the site is Route 33. And as you can see on the opposite side of Route 33 is a residential development. The property itself is located within the HD zone with a VC2 village overlay zone. It's located at the intersection of Route 33 and Warren Way. Warren Way runs, roughly north-south, whereas Route 33 obviously runs east-west. Adjacent to the site, just to the east of the site, there's a strip center with a Starbucks end cap in that, which was recently in front of this, board. And then to the north of the site are residential uses as well as a kiddie academy. To the west of the site is an undeveloped, it was a property which is used as the farm market. It's also within the HDVC2 overlay zone. So those are the existing uses. Just going to refer to the previously approved CREST plan so everyone can get familiar with what was previously approved on the site. And I'm going to mark that as A2. And that'll be overall plan prepared by Crest Engineering Associates, dated September 29th, 2014, last revised March 14th, 2016. So this again identifies the property, which is lot 15. It's okay. It identifies lot 15 on the westerly side of the overall development. There was a previous approval for the site, as was mentioned earlier, for a 4,000 square foot bank with drive-through, as well as a 10,000 square foot restaurant. The previous waivers were granted, was for no loading space for the subject site, for parking stalls that were 9 by 18, and then also for the bank, which we're relatively maintaining as far as a side yard setback. Impervious coverage was permitted to be 50%. It was previously approved at 48.27% with 32.16 motor vehicle services area. The existing topography on site, this site was partially constructed because the basin in front of the property has been constructed. And really, as you pass by the site, I'm sure many of you have, really kind of blocks the property behind it. It has poor visibility of the actual site. So the site overall really relies on the existing freestanding sign, which is located near the intersection of Joan Warren Way and Route 33. But overall, the pad itself is relatively flat with the basin, which has previously been constructed. Now I'm just going to refer to the survey, which does not need to be marked because this was submitted. And this is just the boundary location topographic survey prepared by Dynamic Survey LLC, and that's dated August 4th, 2023. So on this property, you can see the basin along Route 33 has been constructed. There's quite a bit of landscaping that was installed, a number of trees that was installed as part of the original development of the overall tract. The basin has a small infiltration basin as well as an extended detention basin just to the south of the site. There is a number of stormwater connections that are made onto the pad site. And the pad site, if you go out there today, is relatively flat. It's just grass. And then there's a couple areas with utilities, primarily located along Market Street, that were constructed as part of the original development of the site. Now I'm just going to refer to A3, and A3 is just a colorized site plan rendering. That's with the landscaping overlaid on top of the site plan. And this is dated June 25th, 2024, and prepared by Dynamic Engineering. And this exhibit is also north, is facing the top of the page. This will be A3. So on A3, you'll notice in the center, there's the modification is primarily on the easterly pad. As previously mentioned, there was a 10,000 square foot restaurant proposed on this property. We are reducing the size of that building down to 2,195 square feet and proposing it to be a quick serve restaurant with drive-through as a Taco Bell. The preliminary approval was granted for the bank already, and that's a 4,000 square foot bank with drive-through. That is primarily remaining the same. We're modifying the canopy over the drive-through lane slightly, but other than that, the building itself is not really changing. So this exhibit was changed slightly from the site plans that were submitted to the board. They were changed, and I'll go through those changes, but they were changed to address the board's planner as well as the engineering comments that we received. We wanted to really incorporate those changes into this exhibit so that the board was able to see, I think what we could do as far as addressing their comments rather than just, kind of trying to imagine yourself. So we incorporated some of those changes, and I'll go through that as we get further along. So the restaurant use is a permitted use on the site. We are in front of this board because the drive-through facility is not permitted. Even though it was permitted as part of the bank, we've determined in talking to the board's planner that a use variance is required, a D1 variance. The bank is really not being changed. It's a permitted use. The drive-through for the bank was previously approved. So that is a permitted use, and that was previously approved by by the previous host. The multiple uses on site is a permitted use in the ordinance, so that is also permitted. One thing to note, the big differentiation between the two applications is we have a 10,000 square foot sit down restaurant versus a quick serve restaurant, which obviously has a drive through. So it's a smaller building, but as you'll see as we go through the description of the application, you'll see a lot of, obviously many of you have been to quick serve restaurants, a lot of the customers, instead of coming in and sitting down, they go through the drive through lane primarily. As far as bulk standards, as far as what we are pursuing from a setback standpoint, we are asking for a maximum front yard setback of 63.8, whereas 10 is permitted by ordinance. And we are also asking for a building curb line setback of 68.7, whereas 20 is permitted by ordinance. It's very similar to the Starbucks application that took place on the other side of the street. That application very similarly had the same kind of variances issued for it, whereas Starbucks had requested 100 feet and then 105 feet for those two same variances. There is also a variance for the side yard setback for the bank drive-through canopy, and that was previously granted by this board, and we are again asking for that variance and continuing that variance with this application. From a topographic standpoint, the site, as I mentioned, is relatively flat. We're going to maintain most of the existing topography, so we're anticipating it to function very similarly to the previous application that was in front of this board. As far as the drive-through for the Taco Bell, we're anticipating customers will either come off of Joan Warren Way, and then we'll circulate through the site and get into the drive-through lane that way, or potentially from Market Street, come in the driveway in the center of the site. There was some discussion as far as where a phase line would be drawn, and I think I'd mentioned there's 3 different access points to the site. There's an access point off Joan Warren Way on the easterly side of the site. In the center, the northern center of the site, there's the full movement driveway off Market Street, and then there's an ingress only driveway at the northwesterly corner of the site. So as far as where the phase line will be drawn, it will be drawn on the westerly limit of the center drive aisle coming through the site off Market Street. Now the drive-through itself is going to operate efficiently. The new age of QSRs, you have 2 different menu points where people are able to take 2 different orders at one time. So we have 2 different menus proposed for this particular application. In addition to that, we are also proposing a 12-car stack. In comparison, the Starbucks across the way was designed with an 11-car stack. So we have 1 additional car for this type of use, even though I would say traditionally Starbucks tends to have on the higher end of queues. 12 cars is very much on the higher end of queues in general. Usually we shoot for around 10, 11 cars. So 12 cars should give the board certain comfortableness that we're going to be able to properly stack this drive-through. There is also a full bypass proposed around the drive-through lane, and we're going to show with truck circulation that a truck can get through there even when there's cars stacked for the drive-through. So there's 2 drive-through lanes. They're going to merge after the order point and then come through along the southerly side of the building, and there'll be 2 windows on the southern facade as well as 2 clearance bars through the drive-through. We did modify the striping just to the southeasterly corner of the building. I believe the board's engineer had requested that cars leaving the drive-through lane would line up properly with the egress movements off of Joan Warren Way. So based on his recommendation, we added some striping to really help direct cars to that egress driveway and properly align with the driveway on Joan Warren Way. From a parking perspective, the proposed bank is going to continue to have 9x18 parking stalls. I had mentioned earlier that a waiver was granted by the board previously, so the parking stalls on the bank site or side of the property are 9x18. For the Taco Bell property, we were able to comply with the ordinance requirements, so we do have 10x20 parking stalls proposed for that site. Overall, for the overall site, the bank, including the Taco Bell, we are required to have 48 parking stalls, and we're proposing 58 parking stalls That includes 3 ADA stalls and 2 EV credits. So from a parking perspective, we have 10 parking stalls more than what's required by the ordinance, so we are compliant there. From an access circulation standpoint, I mentioned there are 3 different access points. There's a full movement driveway on Joan Warren Way. There's a full movement driveway on Market Street, and an ingress-only driveway just to the west of the drive-through. The one-way driveway is approximately 21 feet wide, and the other 2 driveways are approximately 30 feet wide. The driveway on Joan Warren Way, similar to the Starbucks, and you can actually see it on the aerial on Exhibit A3. Similar to what we had done there, we are proposing a concrete kind of mountable island to really so that the cars aren't driving through the extra wide driveway. We made it wider and we made it mountable, so that, just like what was recommended on the Starbucks site across the way. As far as drive aisles, overall, the site complies with your ordinance requirements. We have over 24-foot wide drive aisles where there's 2-way circulation. Where there is one-way circulation, we have a 12-foot wide drive-through lane, which is also compliant with your ordinance requirement. From a loading perspective, there are no loading areas required on the bank. The restaurant, we are proposing a compliant loading area. That's one of the changes we did have here. Previously, there was some parking proposed near the trash enclosure in the center of the site. We removed some of that parking so we could comply with the ordinance requirement and provide a 12 by 50 loading space. And we had requested a waiver on that, and that is no longer required because we now are proposing a compliant loading space. We also ran a truck where the truck comes in off Market Street, circulates through to the loading space, and then pulls out onto Joan Warren Way. And we're anticipating a WB50 truck will be doing that, and that will be able to be done even if there were cars in the drive-through, and there won't be any sort of conflicts. Even though we are proposing the delivery should be done during off-peak hours, just to give the board a certain comfort level. We did design it so that if there are cars in the drive-through, we are able to still circulate the site. So we do provide 1 loading space on site. From an ADA perspective, we are proposing circulation around the outside. We're proposing new sidewalks around the perimeter of the site. On the northerly side of the site, we are proposing a pedestrian access along with a crosswalk into the site. We're proposing ADA parking stalls in front of the Taco Bell, as well as an ADA compliant entrance. We are also proposing a striped crosswalk across the center drive aisle on Market Street, and then a crosswalk over into the bank property. So this is a major upgrade. This is going to be fully compliant from an ADA perspective, and access can be provided from Route 33. I've been out to the site a number of times. I've actually seen a number of pedestrians that do walk around this area. So it's good that we are proposing a compliant pedestrian access. From a trash enclosure standpoint, we're proposing 2 different trash enclosures. We're proposing the Taco Bell trash enclosure with a crosswalk to access to the building. And then we are also proposing another trash enclosure at the southwesterly corner of the site. The Taco Bell trash enclosure will be 11 by 26, and then the bank trash enclosure will be 10 by 20. One thing to note, I believe there was a comment in the planner's review letter regarding having curbing around the trash enclosure. So most of the time, curbing is required if you have, for instance, a fence that goes around a trash enclosure. In our instance, we're going to have a masonry trash enclosure for both these instances. So the masonry wall will really kind of almost act as a curb. So we are requesting a waiver or variance for that because it doesn't make sense to put a curb inside of a block wall. I think that ordinance section is really designed for when there's a fence around the trash enclosure. But in our instance, both our instances, we are proposing masonry. So we are requesting that variance. As far as operations, we did speak at length with Taco Bell about the operations of their facility. The Taco Bell is going to operate through the drive-through 7 to 1 a.m. Sunday through Thursday. The dining room will be open 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then Friday and Saturday, the drive-through will be open 7 to 2, and the dining room will be open 9 to 11 p.m. From an employee standpoint, they're anticipating approximately 5 to 8 employees, with the maximum being around dinner or lunchtime rush. From a delivery perspective, we're anticipating approximately 4 deliveries generally done during off-peak hours throughout the week. And as I mentioned earlier, the WB50 trucks we use from a delivery perspective. There was some question in the board's professionals review letters as far as what percentage of the customers use the drive-through versus order online versus actually come inside the building. We did ask our client that. Approximately 65% use the drive-through, which is consistent with the other quick-serve restaurants that I've used. Generally speaking, across all the brands, usually they say about 70% of the customers use a drive-through, which is why you see such a big push for drive-throughs throughout New Jersey. And then generally split the remainder, about 17.5 roughly, go inside, and then approximately 17.5 will order in advance. So the people that order in advance can either go through the drive-through lane or they can come inside the building for a quick pickup. So that's usually the breakdown that the client has given us as far as their sales. From a trash enclosure perspective, both of the trash enclosures can be accessed from the drive aisle. We don't have any parking spaces or anything really encumbering either of the trash enclosures from being picked up during regular business hours. So both of the trash enclosures are anticipated to be picked up 2 to 3 times per week, depending on the volume of trash that's there. We're anticipating two different dumpsters to be in each trash enclosure. We've made those trash enclosures large enough to fit a recycling as well as a trash. And we're anticipating those enclosures to be approximately 6 cubic yards. From a stormwater management perspective, we are maintaining the existing basins which are out along Route 33. I mentioned earlier, for both of these uses, as you look along Route 33, there are fences and quite a bit of landscaping that really blocks the overall view of the site. So there is a stormwater basin that's out there. The stormwater basin was approved to accommodate this type of development. We are actually reducing the amount of impervious coverage that is being proposed, whereas I think the original impervious coverage was approximately 48%, and we're proposing 44%. So we are reducing what was previously requested by this board. And then we also are reducing the motor vehicle coverage from 32 to 32.16 to 32.3. So actually, I reversed. We went from 44.9 to 48. So there's a slight deviation in the impervious coverage, but it was accommodated for in the basin. But we are reducing the motor vehicle coverage, which we did mention to your engineer. There was a comment regarding the adequacy of the stormwater management basin, and because we are not increasing the motor vehicle coverage, 7:8 allows any sort of development that has received a preliminary approval to be grandfathered into the old stormwater rules. So we are able to be grandfathered past the new rules, which I'm sure you know were recently adopted last year. So this type of development can be accommodated because there was a previous approval on this site. So we are reducing the runoff rates similar to what the previous development had proposed. From a utility perspective, we are proposing domestic water to the bank as well as a Taco Bell. We're anticipating a 2 to 4 inch for the bank, and then likely a 4 inch for the Taco Bell. Sanitary sewer, also we're anticipating a 4 inch PVC sanitary sewer service for the Taco Bell as well as the bank, and both of those will go out to Market Street, where I believe they're stubbed as part of the original development. From a gas perspective, we're going to be connecting into the gas stub, which is actually at the intersection of Market and Joan Warren Way. So we're anticipating the gas to be provided to both of these buildings. And then from an electric perspective, there actually are 2 transformer pads, or there are at least hookups on site for each of these uses. So we're anticipating we're going to be utilizing those pads. And you can see the pads on the exhibits at the northeasterly corner of the site. And then there's another one just adjacent to the drive-through. From a lighting perspective, there are 3 existing lights along Joan Warren Way, decorative lights as requested by the board in the original approval. Those were modeled as part of our lighting plan. We are proposing 5 additional wall-mounted lights, and then we are proposing 13 single LED Type 5 lights, which are decorative in nature, as well as 17 single head LED lights with forward throw at a mounting height of 20 feet. There was a comment as far as which lights will remain on during security, and we will work with your professionals as far as which lights will remain on overnight. Typically with this type of development, we do like to have a few lights, particularly near the main entrance, just for security purposes, but the other lights on site will be shut off. From a lighting perspective, we basically designed this with LED lights, and really to just maintain a safe and secure site, as well as minimizing off-site glare, understanding we are in nearer residential uses, both across Route 33 and also across Market Street. So we did design the lighting fully compliant with your ordinance, and we used all the decorative features which you've seen on the other sites throughout this development. From a landscaping perspective, we proposed quite a bit of landscaping on site, and we'll go through each of the type of landscaping. We're proposing 33 trees, including 13 shade trees, 16 ornamental trees, and 4 evergreen trees. We're proposing 289 total shrubs, of which are 177 evergreen shrubs and 112 deciduous shrubs, and then 70 ground cover. And we're also proposing 61 perennials and 88 ornamental grasses. Overall, for this site, we're proposing an additional 541 plantings. This is in addition to the landscaping that already exists on site, and there is a number of trees that you can see along Route 33 that have already been planted, as well as basically around the basin. Just some comments, which I believe were in your planner's review letter. We're going to agree to replace any dead landscaping between the parking lot and Route 33. So if there's any trees that are dead along Route 33, we'll agree to replace them. I believe your planner had also asked us to increase the caliper size on a number of different trees, and we're agreeable to doing that both for the evergreen trees as well as if there was anything required for the deciduous trees. And then there was an additional comment regarding just adding some evergreen trees around the trash enclosure, and we're agreeable to modifying that to the borders to address the planner's comment. So from a signage perspective, just to go over the signage. Excuse me, let me just get a sip of water real quick. So from a signage perspective, freestanding signs, there is one freestanding sign that already exists on site that's being maintained, that's not being modified. There are a number of existing nonconformities which exist with that, and that's not being changed. We are proposing drive-through menu boards, 2 menu boards, and then 2 preview boards. That's the 2 menu boards are 25 square feet each, approximately 6 foot high, and the 2 preview boards are approximately 13 square foot each, approximately 6 foot high. Your planner had requested that we ask for variances for this and consider them freestanding signs. So we are requesting variances for the menu board and as well as the preview board, just to be conservative in nature. But they don't really function as signage. They're proposed to the west of the QSR and going to be facing towards the west and also to the north. From a building signage perspective, we are proposing, we're allowed to have 1 per use. We are proposing 8 signs for the Taco Bell, and then 1 sign for the bank. So we're proposing 9 total. We do require a variance for the 8 for the Taco Bell, and we're going to go over those 8 signs shortly. Excuse me. Just as a frame of reference, 11 signs were requested on the Starbucks application that was granted by this board. From a square footage perspective, on the building signage, the square footage does comply with what's permitted on each individual wall. So we're not really proposing a very large sign. It's more of the number of signs which get us in trouble with the ordinance. So I'm just going to refer to the architectural plans because that's probably the easiest way to refer to the signage. So I'm going to mark that as this. It'll be A4 and A5, the 2 architectural plans. So A4 will be the sheet A 4.1R That's dated June 24th, 2024, and that's prepared by Gulsco Architects. Unfortunately, the architect was unable to make it tonight, but we do have the franchisee here who's very familiar with the architecture. If you have any particular questions, but I'm just going to go over and can give a presentation based on this exhibit. So this is going to be A4. There we go. Got just a little bit more length I needed here. And then there is another elevation showing the other side of the building, and this will be labeled as A5, and this is sheet A 4.0R, again dated June 24, 2024, again prepared by the same architect. So this will be A5. So I think I'd mentioned the uniqueness of this property is that we really have 3 different street frontages. So really there's a need to add signage on each side of the building. Similar to the Starbucks that was previously approved, Starbucks also had signage had 3 frontages and also requested signage on each side of the building. So on the elevation, which is the side with, again, I'm referring to A5. This is the side that faces Route 33. This is the side you can see the two different ordering points or drive-through windows. There's just one Taco Bell signage really facing the street, which is Route 33, and then there's a decorative Taco Bell sign. Really doesn't have any real logos on it, but technically it meets the definition of a sign, so we are requesting a variance for that. So there's two signs on that, and then as far as the sign, the side of the building that faces Joan Warren Way on A5 in the lower left-hand corner, you can see there's a Taco Bell sign shown on that. And then to the rear of the building, there's another Taco Bell sign, and that faces to the west. And then on A5, you can see this is the side that really faces the parking area. So this is the main entrance to the building. You can see there's a Taco Bell over the main entrance. Then there's 2 taco signs on the purple side of the building, and then there's one additional kind of main Taco Bell sign at the corner of the building, similar to the other frontages. So that's a description of the signage that's being requested. The bank sign is compliant with the ordinance requirements. From a directional sign standpoint, we are requesting 3 directional signs. The directional signs are smaller than what's allowed by ordinance. However, the Taco Bell signs are 1 foot high versus your ordinance, which allows a 9-inch high sign. So we are, I think in my opinion, complying with the idea of the ordinance, but there's a slight deviation as far as the height of the sign itself. And then also there's a variance being requested for the logo of the Taco Bell. There is an ordinance requirement which requires a blue directional sign only, so we are requesting a variance for directional signage for that. Other than that, we comply with the ordinance requirement from a directional signage standpoint, and that's really it on signage. Those are the couple issues that we have from a signage perspective. As far as architecture, again, just referring to A5, the building itself, actually I'll get into the So this exhibit, I believe, was previously submitted. This is just a floor plan of the Taco Bell itself. I just want to talk about the floor plan layout before we go into the actual facade treatments. So I'm not going to mark
Jim,
this.
just to be clear, that was submitted with the application.
This was submitted with the application, so I'm not going to mark this exhibit.
If you could refer to which sheet it is?
Sure. Yeah. So it's A1, which is just a floor plan It says Endeavor 2.0 Go model floor plan, and it's also prepared by the same architect, Golsco Architects, and that's dated December 20th, 2023. So as was mentioned, the square footage of the building is 2,195 square feet. There's door locations on the northerly side of the building, which is facing down on A1, and then the easterly side of the building, which is facing to the left-hand side of the sheet, which is really to the east. So there's two doors out those two sides of the building. The main entrance, you would enter in from the main entrance and go into the main seating area and POS area. There are 2 bathrooms proposed. There's a men's and a woman's bathroom. From a seat count perspective, we're proposing 40 interior seats as well as 10 outdoor seats, so 50 seats total. There's an interior dining area, outdoor dining area with canopy, customer sales area, serving area, 2 bathrooms. There are 2 window areas, one which is for a pay area and then for a pickup area. And then there's an office in the back with dry storage, cold storage, a washing area, and a utility area. As far as the facade, going back to A4. The facade is going to be mostly siding, hardy siding with artesian V-groove siding. It's going to be a gray material. The scuppers are also going to be gray, semi-gloss finish. The downspouts are also going to be gray with a semi-gloss finish. There's going to be a vertex trim around the windows themselves, with canopies over the windows as well as over the drive-through lanes. The drive-through canopy is going to be approximately 9 to 10 feet high. The reason that is so shallow is that, most clearances under bridges are about 14 feet. However, when you're talking about a drive-through, most vehicles that are going through drive-throughs are passenger vehicles. So there's going to be a clearance bar. And then when you have the canopy too high, it actually doesn't provide any coverage. So on all the drive-throughs we work on, they usually have about a 9 or 10 foot high canopy. If you put it too high, it doesn't really provide any coverage over the vehicle that's opening up its windows. And then as well as there's going to be a stone veneer on the kind of the main Taco Bell tower on the building. There's going to be a standing seam metal roof as well. On the top of the roof, it's approximately 18.6 to the top of the parapet. I believe there was a comment regarding the HVAC on the building. I spoke to our client. They're willing to raise up the parapet to make sure it completely encompasses any sort of HVAC on the building. And really, overall, it's a very modern look. It's very, it has black windows. Many of you have probably been to the one in Robbinsville. It's a very similar type building. It's very modern. I think it's very chic and comes off really well from an architectural perspective. They are using high quality materials. They're not using stucco. They're not using other materials that traditionally you have issues with. We're using siding as well as stone veneer here, so it's a really high quality type of exterior. And that's really it I have in the architecturals, unless anyone has any comments. Just going into the outside agency review, obviously we're in front of this board tonight asking for your approval. So we do require the Township of Monroe's approval. We require Middlesex County approval. We did receive that already. Freehold SCD approval. We did receive that already. DRCC approval. We submitted and we received a review letter. So that approval is pending. We do require DOT approval. So that approval is also pending. Monroe Utility Department. That approval is pending, as well as PSE&P and JCP&L. We do have real cert letters, but we will also require those approvals. So I think in general, I think this type of use really fits in well with this site. It's located on Route 33. It's a very it's a mixed use area. We have two different uses here, which I think will work well with the other uses on site. We are seeking a number of variances and bulk requirements that I did go over. I think a lot of these variances were previously granted for the other approval. And we really tried to incorporate a lot of the board planners' comment, as well as the board engineers' comments, and really tried to incorporate them into the plan that we submitted before you tonight. I do have reduced copies of these exhibits if anyone from the board does want them. And I think aesthetically, with the amount of landscaping that we're adding, this is really almost going to feel like a park-like area around the outside, and really fit in very well with a pedestrian-oriented type of development.
Finished?
That's it.
So a couple more questions. You touched on this somewhat, with respect to the statutory standards for design waivers.
Counsel, could you just get the microphone closer to you, please?
Better? Yes?
Yeah, just talk a little bit.
Enunciate.
Been hearing that my whole life.
There you go.
It's born in Jersey City, Jim, you touched on this with respect to certain design waivers, variants, exceptions under the municipal land use law. Is it your opinion that the relief we're seeking is within the intent of the site plan review ordinances and reasonable?
Right, so per municipal land use law, waivers can be granted as long as they're reasonable in nature. I think a lot of these waivers that we went over tonight are reasonable, and the reasons we're complying or we're not complying with them are, make sense, and I think we're meeting the intent of the ordinance.
And is your opinion that the literal enforcement of all of the standards would be impracticable or exact hardship because of the configuration of the property?
Yes. Especially with the poor visibility, particularly with the signage. I think the signage is going to be key to the success of this type of development. Really, the poor visibility of this site overall makes it a difficult site, so it really needs proper signage in order to really be properly identified from Route 33.
That's all I have for the engineer.
Okay, you could bring your next professional up, please.
Great, thank you.
Give me a moment.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you might recognize our next witness, Scott Kennel, to provide traffic testimony. And Scott, if you would start out real briefly on your qualifications and whether you've appeared before this board.
He knows what I'm waiting. Here we go. Do you swear the testimony you provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
Yes, it is Scott Kennel, Kennel, with McDonough and Ray Associates, located at 1431 Lakewood Road, Manasquan. I'm a principal with McDonough and Ray Associates with over 35 years of traffic and transportation planning experience. I've testified in over 2,000 site plan applications.
We will accept your credentials. We know you've been here before.
Thank you.
So thank you, Scott. If you would, I know you've studied the traffic, the circulation, the parking issues intensively, submitted a report to the board. And if you could, just summarize your findings.
Yes, basically our office submitted a traffic report dated December 19, 2023. And it basically covered an inventory of the existing traffic conditions. It summarized the traffic data collection that was conducted for this development, which was with new traffic counts in October 2023 for the weekday morning and afternoon peak hours, as well as midday peak hours. We also did traffic projections based on the intended use, where we're expecting this type of use to generate for the PM peak hour anywhere from 70 to 80 trips, and on the Saturday peak hour, 120 trips. And that's based on trip generation factors established by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which is also recognized by by New Jersey Department of Transportation. And we also considered, when we did our traffic analysis, the full build-out of Monroe Village, with the bank being developed as well as the remaining commercial space developed on site. And we analyzed the both intersections of Joan Warren Way. First of all, the Applegarth Road intersection, and determined that that intersection with the traffic light, as I'm sure you've seen, is all the equipment is in place out there. It's just a matter of time before that is activated and operating as a fully functioning traffic signal. And with the traffic signal in place, that intersection will operate well beyond the performance thresholds established in the industry, be operating a level of service B, or an average delay of 12 seconds per vehicle. So it's a very efficient. Normally you design for level service C to D, but it's projected to operate level service B. As far as the Joan Warren Way and Route 33 intersection, that'll operate at level service D. D is in David in the morning peak hour, and then level service C for the weekday PM and the Saturday midday peak hour. There was significant testimony on the site design. My office has reviewed the access, on-site circulation, and parking. The site has been designed to accommodate refuse vehicles as well as the delivery vehicles that'll be serving the site. And it was mentioned that deliveries will occur during off-peak hours. We have been advised by Taco Bell that deliveries either be prior to 9 a.m. or after 8 p.m. Again, outside the peak times for the Taco Bell restaurant. It was discussed as far as parking. We have more parking than is required by ordinance. And it's been our experience, as well as review of the Institute of Transportation Engineers parking information, that the restaurant itself will have a demand of 15 to 20 vehicles. It's commonplace that basically less than half of the employees actually drive and park their vehicle at the site. They're generally carpooling or dropped off. But again, the observations by my office and the data from ITE shows that the maximum parking accumulation on the site will be about approximately 20 vehicles, where we have 34 parking spaces serving the restaurant. So in my opinion, it's more than adequate. And then as it relates to the drive-through lane, as Jim stated, we're providing stacking for 12 vehicles. We have 2 order boards, which can accommodate 5 vehicles. Based on our observations at other Taco Bells, generally the peak demand at the order board is 3 vehicles. The fact that we have 2 order boards or menu boards makes it a more efficient. And the total number of vehicles that we've observed in the drive-through lane, including what's at the order board, is in the range of 6 to 8 vehicles. So again, this design to accommodate a maximum of 12 vehicles. And we also have a continuous bypass lane. In my opinion, has been designed properly and can operate safely and efficiently. And Jim did mention as far as NJDOT, and I'll just touch on that, because of the change in uses that have taken place since the last NJDOT permit was issued in 2018, it's necessary for us to revisit so they can, the 2 uses, and I'll say the Taco Bell and the Starbucks, on a square footage basis, have a higher traffic generation per square foot as compared to prior uses. So basically, it's a matter of, it's an accounting process, more or less administrative with NJDOT, to amend the permit to reflect the traffic generation associated with the uses that are currently on the table or are in place on the Monroe Village development. And I would expect that we'd have DOT approval within, say, 4 to 6 weeks. That application was filed back on April 5th. So basically, in summary, as it relates to the site plan, it's my opinion that it's been designed safely and efficiently to optimize access, and that the design can accommodate not only the passenger vehicles, but the large wheelbase vehicles that'll be serving the site. That concludes my direct.
And Scott, I believe the drawings that Jim Henry referred to before reflect some tinkering, if you will, with the access drive and the like, relative to when the plans were first submitted. So those plans that he showed, his exhibits, are up to date.
That's correct. We have made those adjustments based on recent information we were provided by Taco Bell on the type of delivery vehicles.
Right, and to meet the comments of the board's professionals.
That's correct.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Please proceed with your testimony.
Andrew, whenever you're ready, perhaps we can begin with having you sworn in.
Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, if you could slide up to that microphone, give us your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please, for the record.
Certainly.
You gotta get close.
Is this any better? Better?
Yeah.
I apologize.
If you could, Andrew, just begin by summarizing your qualifications.
Yep. Still need your name, last name, and your address,
I
please.
thought we did that already.
No, microphone malfunction.
Janu, Janiw, with Beacon Planning and Consulting Services, 315 Highway 34, Colts Neck, New Jersey.
Sorry, I forgot about the mic issue. Andrew, if you don't mind, begin by summarizing your qualifications for the board.
Sir, I am a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey, as well as a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering from the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Currently serving as the planner for the borough of Carteret, Middlesex County, as well as Freehold Borough and the Township of Livingston. Been appointed by Governor Murphy to the State Board of Professional Planners. I've been testifying throughout the state for the past 23 years, and I've been accepted in municipalities throughout.
We will accept your credentials as a professional.
Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, I know you've been involved with this application pretty extensively and formed some conclusions based upon your involvement with it. If you could summarize that for the board.
Certainly. So for the record, the property in question is identified as Block 4, Lot 15. It is located within your Highway Development Zone and the VC2, or the Village Center 2 Overlay District. Both of those districts permit restaurants and banks. The VC2 permits a variety of restaurants but does not permit drive-throughs. We are seeking the deviation this evening to permit a drive-through for the restaurant use, which is otherwise permitted. As was indicated previously, the property is located along the north side of Highway 33 at the intersection with Joan Warren Way. It also has frontage along Market Street to the north. It's previously been approved for a bank site and a restaurant site. There's a basin that's already been constructed on the property, and this evening seeks to modify the restaurant approval to provide for the standalone restaurant with drive-through. The area is a commercial corridor within the township. It is along highway frontage. The property is in the vicinity of a Starbucks directly to the east. Further to the east, we have a McDonald's. There's the Tractor Supply and a Quick Check. And across the highway, there are several service stations as well as the Wawa with convenience stores. So it is a commercial corridor and also in close proximity to the Turnpike access. As indicated, the restaurant with a drive-through, the restaurant's permitted, the drive-through is not. We are seeking a D variance for the addition of the drive-through and associated bulk variances with that. Would you like me to go through the bulk variances, or Mr. Henry, I think, covered them all, but
If your attorney wants you to go through them, then go through them.
I don't know that yet. I don't know you have to specify them as he did, but
I'll go through the relief and we'll pick through those, and for the moment, I'll concentrate on the preparation for this evening. In terms of getting ready for this evening and preparing for the testimony, part of what we do is we review your ordinances, your master plan. We review particularly the VC2 standards. I went to the site, I visited the site, the proximity of the site, as well as the correspondence from your planner, your engineer, and I've attended the TRC meeting in preparation as well. In looking at your master plan, it's a great comprehensive document issued in 2022. There are several goals that I believe are on point here. Goal number 3 within the master plan is to encourage appropriate commercial development in areas of population concentrations and where existing infrastructure can accommodate. It also points out under point A, we should incentivize high-quality mixed-use development along the Route 33 corridor. This application is on point with that in achieving these defined goals and objectives. It is a mixed-use community. It has approved other commercial uses, restaurants with drive-throughs along the Highway 33 corridor. The VC overlay district was intended to promote and create new businesses for local and community needs. That's one of the stated purposes of that district. The master plan specifically cites a lack of commercial development as an issue and states in a survey of residents, many want to see more restaurants, grocery stores, and retails for both personal use and to increase the township's tax base. This application furthers those goals and fulfills the stated desires of the residents. Additionally, within the stated purpose of the VC2 district, it reads, to promote a full range of commercial, office, residential land uses within a newly created pedestrian-friendly mixed-use environment that will serve local, community-wide, and regional needs and create new employment opportunities. Land uses within the overlay zone should be arranged to provide for highway-oriented commercial and office uses along Route 33. Again, the application is on point with that. We are promoting a bank and a restaurant use along 33. We are seeking the desirable drive-through for the restaurants, which is the nature of the types of restaurants that are thriving these days. It is a highway-oriented use. It is located in a mixed-use environment along other restaurants which provide drive-through facilities. So I think in terms of continuity with the neighborhood character, with the highway character, we are on point. As this board also knows, there are special reasons that we have to look to because a variance cannot be granted for the sole purpose of benefit of the applicant. These are known as the special reasons within the municipal land use law and are defined within 4055 D2 of the MLUL. I believe there are 3 that are promoted by this application. Purpose A, they are by letter within the MLUL. Purpose A is to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. This application promotes a use that fulfills a need within the community, defined by the community. It's highway-oriented, results in a commercial rateable, creates new employment opportunities, and advances the general welfare of the community. Within the MLUL is to provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, recreational, commercial, and industrial uses in open space, both public and private, according to the respective environmental requirements in order to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. Again, the location for the restaurant is in a mixed-use community. It is highway-oriented. It is along the highway corridor, and it is an appropriate location, as was noted with the approval for the Starbucks and the McDonald's. It is that type of highway corridor. It is that type of traffic that it will be serving. And finally, M is to encourage the coordination of various public and private procedures and activities shaping land development with the view of lessening the cost of such development and to the more efficient use of land. The application for the restaurant located within this portion of the mixed-use building is appropriate. A restaurant was always promoted as part of this application. What we're changing is adding the drive-through. The infrastructure associated with this parcel has been approved. The basins have been constructed. The access has been approved. We'll be utilizing the same access points for this property. We're proposing a use that will efficiently utilize the parcel. It'll be safe. There's safe circulation around it. So it is a very efficient use of land and promotes the infrastructure availability. So finally, that brings us to the D variance relief. What we are seeking is a D1 variance. Therefore, we have to qualify under what's known as the Medici criteria. Judge Skillman wrote in the Saddlebrook Board of Adjustment case, our case law recognizes 3 three categories of circumstances in which special reasons required for a use variance may be found. Where the proposed use inherently serves the public good, I'm not going to argue inherent beneficial here. Where the property owner would suffer an undue hardship if compelled to use the property in conformity, we're not arguing a hardship. But three is where the use would serve the general welfare because the site is particularly suited for the proposed use. And in this instance, the site is particularly suited for the proposed use. In recent case law, there's the Borough of Hasbrook Heights Planning Board versus CR Route 17, which is a Superior Court case in New Jersey. And it reads, in affirming or reversal of the law division's order, the Supreme Court states, the availability of alternative locations is relevant to the analysis, but demonstrating that a property is particularly suited for use does not require proof that there is no other potential location for the use, nor does it demand evidence that the project must be built in a particular location. It is an inquiry as to whether the property is particularly suited for the proposed use in the sense that it is especially well suited to the use in spite of the facts that the use is not permitted. Again, your VC2 permits restaurants. It promotes highway-oriented uses. We are along a state highway. We're approximate to a turnpike exchange. We have commuter traffic that is regional as well as local in this vicinity. And I would argue that this site is particularly suited for the use as it will accommodate both local and regional traffic that is basically passing by. Restaurants today, you see big box restaurants like you've read recently about the Fridays closing in New Jersey, as well as Red Lobster. The big boxes aren't thriving. The big restaurants aren't thriving. However, drive-through restaurants, because of the convenience factor, because they're located on commuter routes, these are the types of restaurants that do thrive. This is particularly suited for that type of use, and I believe it'll be a suitable addition for the area. The site's features, configuration, and location all contribute to the particular suitability. The location is ideal to serve this traffic, and I would argue that this access has been determined to accommodate the use, and the site is already intended to serve a restaurant use. And what we're doing is we're essentially creating a restaurant use that can thrive at this location. With respect to substantial detriment, I don't see any. The proposed development of a restaurant with a drive-through is properly situated on the highway corridor. The characteristics are defined within the purposes, allergies, so I'm drying out. The characteristics are defined within the purposes of creating the VC2 zone. It encourages the highway location. Furthermore, with two similar uses in close proximity, being the Starbucks and the McDonald's, the drive-through would be certainly well situated, as these type of uses were vetted for this location previously. With respect to the Medici reconciliation, meaning the reasoning behind the omission of the use from the ordinance, I would argue that the overlay zone promotes a full range of commercial, office, and residential uses, encourages restaurant uses, encourages mixed uses, and encourages highway-oriented uses, specifically along Route 33. We are one of those unique locations along Route 33. This is an appropriate use in there, and it's been found the case in two adjacent sites. It's important to understand that while the large sit-down restaurant that may have been contemplated here was previously considered by this board, the market for that essentially doesn't exist today. What we do have are these types of quick serve restaurants. They're active in the corridor, they're successful in the corridor, and we do believe that makes this site particularly suited. The VC2 zone may not have been updated for that, but it does anticipate restaurant use. And in fact, it anticipated drive-throughs for the bank use, not with the restaurant use. So I would argue that may be why the omission for the particular restaurant drive-through, but it is a suitable location. And again, it has been vetted by this board and approved previously. When we're looking at balancing the particular suitability of the site with the proposed use, I would find there's no substantial harm because the zone plan anticipated a restaurant use, and with that comes the type of traffic, the type of trash generation, the noise generation. All those types of issues have been considered within the zone plan for the restaurant use, and we are not something that would substantially elevate any of those nuisance factors. And that brings us to the bulk variances. As the board knows, there are two factors within bulk variance relief. One is the C1 hardship, and that pertains to specific considerations for the configuration of a site. Again, this site has already been contemplated for a bank and a restaurant use. Many of these issues have been vetted by the board before, and there were approvals that were granted for the access points, and many of those points would comply with essentially the C1 saying they've already been approved, vetted by this board, and can be considered. There are several new variances that we can consider within this district that I would believe would qualify under the C2 criteria. Under the C2 criteria, which is known as the balance test, we have to prove that the burdens of the proof the benefits of the proof outweigh any detrimental impacts. The three prongs of the positive criteria are that the application relates to a specific piece of property. It does. That purposes of the municipal land use law would be advanced by deviations. They do. And that the benefits of the deviation would outweigh any detriment. Again, the benefits of the deviations that we're talking about are largely driven by the fact that this has a unique configuration. The property has three frontages. Has highway frontage along 33, has Joan Warren Way, as well as Market to the rear. It is also a factor to consider that the restaurant site itself will be situated on the other side of the basins from Highway 33. So there's a substantial distance between the highway and the restaurant, and visibility is paramount to the success of restaurants in this location. So when we're looking at the deviations related to the signage that we're proposing, and yes, we are proposing 8 facade signages. Jim went through how they're placed. They're all intended to be able to catch the eye of the passerby, the driver, in order to define where to go for this restaurant. And this is important to the success of the restaurant. We are seeking deviations in terms of not providing the berming and landscaping in addition to what's already along the highway frontage in order to maximize the visibility from the highway frontage so that it can be accessed properly and safely. You heard testimony from both Jim and Mr. Kennel regarding the on-site circulation, the parking. We have sufficient parking for the property. We can circulate the property properly. We are not seeking variance for the loading. We've accommodated the loading with what your minimum requirements are for a loading zone. We have sufficient trash disposal on the site. So in terms of the operational factors, we are providing a safe environment for pedestrians, for vehicles, as well as for service vehicles such as deliveries and trash. When we look at the negative criteria, we have to define that the variances can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, and that the variance will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan. In this instance, the zone plan contemplates restaurants. It did not contemplate drive-throughs. It did not permit drive-throughs. I believe we are particularly suited for the drive-through given the location and the unique configuration of the property and the proximity to Route 33. With respect to substantial detriment, I don't see any. Again, restaurants are permitted here. We can accommodate the trash. We can accommodate the addition. Actually, we're reducing the drainage that was anticipated as we're reducing the impervious coverage. We can properly park the site. We can properly circulate the site. So from an operational standpoint, we're not creating any nuisances. We're not in close proximity to any residences where this type of use would create an additional nuisance above and beyond any of the other permitted uses within the district. Finally, we have to consider the Price v. Himeji case, which spoke about granting a use variance and the fact that the use may not have been contemplated within a district. It does essentially create some issues in terms of other deviations, the bulk variances, which would be subsumed. When you contemplate a use variance such as today, you have to consider that it will create issues such as circulation issues, distance issues, and the like. And those would be subsumed in this case because if you're okay with the drive-through use, those are the factors that just come along with that type of use that otherwise wasn't contemplated within the district. So when I look at this, I think the property is particularly suited for the use. I think it can be granted without any substantial detriment to the community. With respect to the bulk variance relief and the waivers that we're seeking, they are better zoning alternatives as they create a rateable for the community. They create proper circulation on the site. They enhance the visibility of the site and the uses within the site. And in all, it's a package that will create success for the commercial uses here.
Well, that was very comprehensive. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other witness, any other testimony, counsel?
I don't think so. Could I ask, just we can take a
We
brief
are gonna
break?
take a break, give your stenographer a few minutes for his fingers,
Yes,
and then we're gonna take 5 minutes. 8 o'clock, we'll reconvene.
thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go back into session, please. Everyone find your places. Thank you. So we last left off, counsel, your testimony is all complete, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna open to our professionals. Mika, we're gonna start with you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start with Mr. Henry with a couple of questions. And I'm referring to the board planner letter dated June 13th, 2024. You've visited a lot of the items in the review letter, but I just want to confirm a few more.
Mika,
items.
before you continue, can you just put the site plan up for people or for the board that wants to watch it as they go along, please? Would appreciate it.
There you go.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mika, I'm
All
sorry.
right, thank you. Mr. Henry, to confirm a couple of things, I believe the testimony was the Taco Bell restaurant timings were on Sunday through Thursday would be 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. Is that correct? I just want to confirm the timing, because the question is loading and delivery related.
Yeah, Sunday through Thursday, the drive-through will be open 7 a.m. to 1 a.m.
Okay, and the regular restaurant will be open from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.,
Yes.
right? And for Friday through Saturday, it would be 7 a.m., the drive-through would be 7 a.m. to 2 a.m.,
Yes.
Is that correct? And the regular restaurant will again be 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Yes.
All right. Testimony that was followed by that was provided by Mr. Kennel basically said that deliveries will take place prior to 8 a.m. in the morning or after
8 p.m.
8 p. Prior to, no, sorry, trying to pull it up.
I
wrote
think it was
down.
after 9 a.m.
Friday night.
Yeah,
Friday night.
before 9 a.m. and after 8 p.m. Is that, so is there a definite time? Because again, it's open till 1 a.m. and the regular restaurant is open till 11 p.m. We just want to ensure if there is a confirmed time, because again, proximity to the residential around it, we want to make sure, the delivery trucks, the type of trucks with their reverse sounds and everything, it's keeping in mind the residential around.
I'll discuss that with the franchisee and circle back with you on that. Just one thing to point out. So I know we said it was during off-peak hours, but we designed this so it could be delivered during regular business hours. So the truck can come in off of Market, come in, get into the loading zone and pull out without any impact to the drive-through. So if the board is concerned about having truck deliveries overnight, we can discuss with our client, possibly restricting overnight deliveries. We could talk to him about what we can do to meet the board's needs.
Yeah, I mean, some confirmation should be provided, again, because during the daytime, as we see the plan, this plan was not, that was provided to us, right, to review? I mean,
Right,
this is the
we
exhibit.
emailed, after our TRC, we went and revised this, and we emailed it in advance of tonight to the, not to you, actually, to the engineer.
Okay, yeah, because I haven't seen this, all right. But having said that, because I do see some parking spaces where the loading has been proposed now, and
Right.
during the daytime, that might be used for parking. So, we want to ensure the board is clear on the delivery timing, and we exactly know, is it off-peak, and what's the timing of that?
Okay. Oh, we'll discuss that with our client and circle back on that issue.
Thank you. Following up, again, I'm going page by page, so please bear with me. In terms of the bulk variances that were, you went very detailed through one by one. One item I do want to clarify, which I know we discussed at TRC, but again, the building height for the bank, it's going to comply. Is that still, or do you have the height that was proposed and approved?
Yes, it's still going to comply.
Still going to comply, but we don't know the exact height that was approved, right?
No, because I believe I think we had discussed this, that it was more like a pitched roof. So we are going to comply with the ordinance requirement, but
Okay.
because it had a pitched roof, it was a little bit
All right. The other bulk variance item, which I may not have heard, but about the buffer width from the right-of-way. I believe this is looking at Joan Warren Way as the right-of-way.
Yes.
Could you clarify that to the board? That is a variance that you are seeking tonight, right?
That is a variance. We really, as you look at Exhibit A3, you can see the landscaped areas along Joan Warren Way. We really tried to landscape that as best as possible with a number of trees as well as shrubs all along Joan Warren Way to really buffer the use. However, there is a variance required for that, but we use the landscaping to really mitigate the impacts.
Could you clarify for the record what the requirement is and what is being proposed?
Jim, could you slow down a little and use the mic more? Thank you.
Yep.
I'm his age.
It's the second to last item on my table. It's 100 feet is required and 18.2 that's proposed. Is that correct?
Right. So 18.2, that was maintained as part of this. We didn't modify the setback from. We didn't change the setback from the parking and the 10 spaces on the top of the sheet. That's set. We just eliminated the bank spaces, and the setback really shouldn't have changed what was you had seen on the previous set.
Okay.
Can't hear you over here.
Don, not loud.
Repeat that last sentence.
Sure. So 18.2 is what we had shown previously to the right of way. That is the same setback as what we're proposing. The 10 spaces on the top of the sheet were not changed from what was previously proposed as part of the plans that I believe were submitted to the board.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm confused. So we're talking about the buffer width from the Joan Warren Way, right? There are no 10 spaces there.
Oh, I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
Joan Warren, right. So that
Yeah.
area too has not changed either. I apologize. I thought I was looking at Market Street.
Yeah, and the right of way, I mean, the buffer width is still 18.2.
The
is that yours?
buffer for Joan Warren Way is still 18.2. I apologize. I was referring to Market Street now.
All right, and you're seeking variance from that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, next, going to the landscaping, and you did testify to a lot of items that were raised in the memo. One thing I do want to clarify, and again, because, you know, extensive testimony was given about the visibility of the site.
Yes.
So currently, as it stands, I believe the crest plan, which was testified, I do have the dates, but not right now in front of me. You have testified saying that the landscaping has been provided as per the plans that were approved, or?
I believe it's partially provided because
Okay.
I believe when and again, I wasn't privy to this, so I wasn't around when this was agreed upon, but I understand that part of the landscaping around the basin was installed in order to put the basin in. However, obviously the plan wasn't fully designed, so just the landscaping around the basin was installed as part of the original, I'll call it a phase one of this development. So that landscaping was installed as part of phase one when the basin was constructed, and now we're going to be adding additional landscaping as part of this development of the pad.
So you are proposing additional parking, additional landscaping around the stormwater basin?
No, just on the north side of the basin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because one thing on the landscaping note, that was the sheets that was submitted to us, one of the items that was declared is the applicant will coordinate with the previous developer and the township in order to meet all the landscaping that was previously approved and bonded. Is that still the intention? Because
Yes.
we want to, when you drive by the site, again, I'm not privy to what the Crest landscaping plan was as to what was being proposed, but I'm sure you've looked at the ordinance, we've looked at the ordinance. There has to be a little more landscaping along Route 33 that must have been approved. So is that still the intention, that we visit the Crest plan that was approved and look at today what's on the site and make sure, it's complying with what was approved then?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of additional landscaping that you have provided to the north, going back to the comments that were made in our landscaping plan, again, there were certain comments made to add a little bit more of, alternate staggered landscaping to kind of give that effect. Is that what is being achieved by this?
Yes.
Again, we haven't reviewed this plan, but would you be willing to work with our landscaping department to ensure that, that's the intent that's being met?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The one deviation from that is regarding the berms. We're not providing the visibility to the site is already poor, so there's not going to be any berm shown, which I don't think really was the intent of that ordinance section. But we're not berming anything off of Joe Moore Way.
Don't ask about the berms in Monroe.
Okay.
There's always
All right.
an intention
All
to
right.
provide the berms. So, but going back to, thank you for bringing that berm thing, because that was going to be the next question. So there is no berming around Route 33 that is being proposed.
No, there is kind of a berm that's already along Route 33 up to the basin wall. So there is essentially a berm that elevates from Route 33 higher, and then there's the top of the walls where the fence is, and then it drops down where the basin is. So there is a berming effect of the basin, but there's not a full berm. I would say that.
Okay. But berming effect means what? Like it requires
It means
6 foot.
it blocks the view of the site because it does berm up a few feet off of Route 33.
Really, it blocks the.
It doesn't. I'm not saying it definitely it impacts the visibility.
Okay. But the testimony is there's no berming around Route 33 frontage as today. There might be 1 foot or 2 foot berming,
Right.
but not meeting the 6 foot berming that's
Correct.
being proposed. Okay. And you'll work with us on the landscaping. We did ask for additional landscaping to be provided where the islands are, to the northwestern area, around the bank parking. I believe it's shown as just grass area, but would you be willing to work with us to add a little more planting over there?
Yes. Are you referring to just to the west
No,
side?
the top also.
Up
Yeah.
here? Yeah. Just that area, it was requested to add sidewalk and extend it all the way to the west. So there's somewhat limited area now, but we'll work with you to do whatever we need to do there.
Okay. And I believe the rest of the items you did talk about, we asked for some little more for the deciduous tree planting instead of rigid or plastic open mesh. We needed to add some other type of requirement and the root flares and everything. And those are the things, just because that wasn't testified to, I want to ensure that all is, you would be willing to comply with.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Now, in terms of parking, I just want to get it straight, because the plans we had, it did show some bank parking spaces, and, now we're discussing the entire number of parking spaces. Could you clarify for the board the total number of parking spaces that are being proposed? Are there any bank parking spaces that you're still contemplating, or you're proposing everything, and especially if there are any number of parking spaces that has been reduced because of the loading space that has been provided?
Sure. So at the TRC, we had some discussion regarding the parking. We had previously on the northerly side of the site, just opposite where you enter the drive-through lane, we had proposed some additional bank spaces in addition to what we had. We went through the TRC. There was some discussion about providing a loading zone that could fit our truck. Also, we were told that we weren't complying with the ordinance requirement. So we went to the drawing board. We spoke to the tenant as well as our client as far as changes we can make to the site in order to address both the board's professionals' comments as well as meeting the needs of the tenant. So what we did was we removed the bank spaces, which were just located along Market Street So those bank spaces are no longer being proposed. We additionally removed a few spaces near where the loading space is in order to fit the properly sized loading space that meets your ordinance requirement. That being said, we were under the original design overparked, and we are still overparked. We still have 10 more spaces than what's required by ordinance, even with those changes. And one of the other things we had to address was the board's engineer also had commented on whether or not the proposed development would be grandfathered into the new stormwater regulations. In order to be grandfathered into the new stormwater regulations, you cannot increase the motor vehicle service areas on site. So by removing those spaces, we were able to comply with that and show that we're able to be grandfathered into the old stormwater rules.
So the total count of number of parking spaces is?
Yeah, so the total count is 58 parking spaces and 48 is required by ordinance. That's including the 2 EV credits.
That includes that.
Yeah.
So actual spaces are 56.
Right.
Thank you. And the size of parking spaces for the Taco Bell area, you're complying. It's only for the bank that it's 10 by 18.
That's correct.
Okay. The other variances, again, to make it on record, there was a parking variance for the front yard parking, as well as, the distance of parking spaces to the building. That is still being sought.
That is being sought. Then that was, I went through, I think we had discussed, we went through the old approvals, and I believe that was previously granted for this site. So we are continuing to request that.
Yeah, but the building
was
changed.
modified, right?
So it'll be a variance. All right. In terms of lighting level, you did testify regarding meeting the, we'd asked for dimming the lights during non-operational hours. So we are fine with that. We had made certain suggestions to add some more, lighting along the pedestrian walkways, maybe, the lower level lighting. Again, if it's needed, because I know the site is substantially lit because of the commercial portion, but is that something that we can discuss if needed?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to go as fast.
That's
I don't
okay.
want to forget anything. In terms of signage, you did provide the location of the signage and the requirement of the directional signage. And this is tied with the architecture of the building, which you did testify to. The building itself has a certain specific of color design that's going on. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that itself is, again, because of the national brand market it becomes a signage in itself because of the typical color combination that they use.
I wouldn't call it a sign. I think it's, I think there's a color combination that you anticipate seeing with certain brands. Like McDonald's, you would see yellow and brown. Taco Bell is purple, but I wouldn't call it a sign. But yeah, there's colors that are associated with certain QSR brands.
Okay. All right. If we don't call it sign, I mean, that's also a visible cue as to what the building is. If the argument is about visibility from the road.
I mean, if I saw yellow, I would anticipate it to be
McDonald's.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. In terms of outdoor seating that is being proposed, I believe there are 10 seating areas that are being proposed outside. Is there any kind of bollards or anything, again, because of the vehicular circulation around that is being proposed there?
I believe that.
Or can we request that be provided? Because that's something we also asked to be provided in Starbucks, and I think we came up with either heavy planters or bollards.
I think we could work with you to figure out something there. I know there is a fence around the outside, but if we want something that'll prevent vehicles, I'm sure our client would be willing to do that.
Okay. Refuse recycling. I know you said because of the type of thing we are proposing, we are, it's not really needed, but you're still requesting that as a variance, right? The curbing along there.
Yes, the curbing within the trash enclosure is technically a variance, but we are proposing a very high quality masonry trash enclosure here, so I don't think it's required.
Okay. And last thing I think it's last thing, then I have questions for Mr. Janeo. But in terms of the HVAC and mechanical systems, I believe you provided that it'll be provided on the roof. Can we request a roof plan be provided during resolution compliance just to see where they are located and the extended parapet that has been testified to tonight?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Henry. I think those were some of the technical questions. I do have a follow-up question on testimony from Mr. Janeo, if I can.
Yes.
Thank you. Just two questions in terms of, the use variance that is being sought and the negative criteria that it's required to meet to discuss about it's not causing any kind of impair to the intent of the zone plan. When we say that this use is located in an overlay of VC2 zone, which does encourage, rightly said, commercial type of uses, mixed use development, but you cannot ignore the fact that it does also say about creating more pedestrian friendly development. And that is evident by requirement of these maximum setbacks that are required from the front yard. Like they've said like 10, and what we are proposing is about what you guys are, but you guys are proposing is 68 point, I believe 7 or 2, I don't have that.
Yes.
So how would you say that even by proposing this drive-through, you're still meeting the intent of the VC2 and not the HD, because the overlay zone is the VC2 village,
Yes.
Is being met?
Yes. No, so let's concentrate on the D variance is for the drive-through use, not for the restaurant use. The VC2 district specifically points out that it is encouraging high-quality, highway-oriented uses along the Route 33 corridor. It distinguishes the Route 33 corridor separate from the balance of the VC2 overlay. So it treats that area a little bit more specially. And quite frankly, there is pedestrian walkways that are being proposed around the perimeter of the site. So there is no essential blockage or lack of permission for pedestrians to access this. It is a commercial area. There are commercial uses directly across both to the north and to the east of this. So in terms of whether people will come from the residential uses by walkway, they certainly can. But again, this is intended to be a highway commercial use, as was anticipated in the VC2 zone. So when we look at the impact of the drive-through on that, I would argue there isn't. The drive-through is intended to create a convenience for the traffic that is highway-oriented, to provide convenience for people coming through there. Certainly pedestrians can walk in. There's outdoor seating. There's indoor seating. There's nothing that prohibits that, but it does add the additional feature of attracting traffic from the highway commercial for the convenience of the passerby, because the VC2 district also talks about the need to accommodate locals essentially, as well as regional traffic. So this, I think, does accomplish that. So when we look at, is it a deviation that is a substantial detriment? I don't think so. I think it can accommodate the pedestrian traffic through there from the community. It certainly tracks from the commercial, the traffic that's regional coming by on the highway commercial. And in terms of the distances are provided. There was a deviation previously granted, I believe it was 30 feet for the distance, not 10 feet. But it's intended to provide adequate circulation around the site. So it is a little bit more of a distance setback, but that is all intended to provide safe passage, safe circulation, not only for cars accessing it, but for the truck traffic, the garbage traffic, and the like, and those types of vehicles that'll access the site. So I don't think we create a detriment. I think we meet the intent of the VC district, and I think we're properly located.
Okay, thank you. I mean, traditionally, you wouldn't say drive-through is one of those pedestrian-friendly businesses from a planning perspective.
Well, again, this business accommodates both walk-in traffic and drive-through traffic.
Okay, I'll beg to differ, but The second question I have, I think I touched upon it with Mr. Henry, in terms of the number of signage that is being proposed. And we've heard the argument, and, you know, it makes sense in terms of the visibility and everything. But wouldn't you also say the building itself, with the composition of colors and everything, is providing that visibility to any passerby who is, you know, living in a cosmopolitan area and does know what these colors stand for?
Well, first of all, the color palette here isn't something that's vivid or vibrant or something that stands out. It's not a chartreuse, it's not an orange, it's not a yellow. It's a subdued pattern of grays with some purple. And I would give you that probably during evening or dusk hours or early morning hours, you wouldn't even be able to distinguish the purple from some of the darker colors. Yes, purple is a Taco Bell color, but I wouldn't say that just as you're driving by, you'd be able to immediately identify, because it's not something that's a high visibility color. So I do think the signage is still necessary. And again, we talked about the signage being positioned around the three sides such that it can attract traffic. It doesn't exceed what the square footage would be for a front signage along the front. And one of the added points was that some of the signs that are there, they're not logo signs, but they're remarkable signs. They're not backlit. So you'll see them during the day. You won't see them at night. It's not something that'll essentially pollute the surfaces. So I still think the visibility is important. These are muted colors. These aren't vibrant colors that can be seen from a great distance. And while purple is a signature color, again, it's not, I don't believe it's something that would stand out as an orange or a yellow would when you associate that with a McDonald's.
All right. I just want to clarify that it was testified that the building is going to, there is wall-mounted lights that are being proposed on the
There are
building
some, yes,
throughout.
but some of the signs that Mr. Henry enumerated won't be backlit.
Okay. And that's about it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just jump right on that note. The signs that are backlit and not backlit, do we have that clarified as to which signs are backlit and which aren't?
Sure. Yes. We can refer to them. I think we refer to in the signage table. I have an exhibit that I can show on the signage.
So part of the plan set, or?
This is sheet 17 of the plan set. So this does not have to be marked. This is construction details, sheet 17 of the plan set. This does not need to be marked. So on sheet 17 of the plans, they indicate the building signage. The black sign that says 3 typical, it says sign number 3. Those signs will not be illuminated. You can see it's a black sign that kind of fits in well with the architectural feature of the building, but technically it does meet the requirement or definition of a sign on the building. So the other signage will be internally illuminated. However, those 3 signs which are proposed are not going to be internally illuminated.
Chairman, my review letter dated June 14, 2024. Guess I'll touch through it. You, subject to the comments I'm going to make, I mean, are you agreeable to, generally agreeable to the comments in my review letter?
Yes, other than the few deviations that I mentioned at during my testimony.
So let me just go through my review letter then. Pedestrian access, you agree to be ADA compliant throughout the parking lot, detectable warning surfaces to be provided where required under ADA.
Yes.
Also, there's no pedestrian access along from Market Street to Taco Bell. Can you get a access from Market Street to Taco Bell? You have access to the bank, but not to Taco Bell. And we just had a long conversation, I believe, discussing pedestrian access.
I think in my experience from being on the site, most people are coming off of Joan Warren Way. So if you're accessing the bank, you would take the sidewalk along Market Street and then come down and go to the bank. If you're going to the Taco Bell, you would come down Joan Warren Way and then access off of Joan Warren Way. I don't think there's going to be many people. If you're coming off Market Street, you would just walk to the intersection, come down, and then walk into the site using the pedestrian access.
So where are the residential properties in relation to your?
They're on Market Street, but however, if you just take the sidewalk down to Joan Warren Way and walk down, which is almost all of the pedestrian, I don't think there was any pedestrian access. All the pedestrians that I saw were primarily walking up and down Joan Warren Way when I've been into the site. And I think that's a logical access. We could provide an access probably through to the bank through the trash enclosure area that then could come up to Joan Warren or come up to Market Street. I think the probability of a pedestrian using that access point is unlikely. Is unlikely. But if you want us to provide access that way, I'm sure we could provide it. Probably would require a little bit higher impervious coverage on our end, but we probably could provide it.
Well, I don't believe it's pedestrian access friendly the way it's laid out. You don't have internal connections between the bank and the Taco Bell. You don't have access from Market Street. So
I think the pedestrian access, as I testified, is going to come off Market Street or Joan Warren Way, and then they're going to circulate along Market Street or Joan Warren Way to access the site. But we can provide the connection to Market Street if that's something the board would like.
Okay. Are you're proposing curbs and sidewalks along the frontages of Joan Warren Way and Market Street, the entire frontages?
Yes, where they're not already provided.
Okay, so so that'll be added. There's a section on Market Street without sidewalk that will be provided. You're agreeing to that?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see, the traffic signal that's I believe it's under construction on Applegarth and Joan Warren Way. I think there was some testimony from your traffic engineer. Is that completed or is that nearly completed?
Call Scott Kennel up.
Again, Scott Kennel. Based on my inspection this afternoon before the hearing, all the signal equipment is in place. I don't know the particulars, but from my observations, it's something that'll occur in the near future. So I don't have the exact date, but curbing, sidewalks, and all the signal equipment's installed. So it's something that is forthcoming in a very short time or order of time.
Okay, so is the applicant agreeable that no CO would be issued prior to, without that signal being operational?
Yes.
Thank you. And while you're there, Scott,
Sure.
The plan that's up on the screen has been revised since not in the packets of the board, not what we reviewed. Did you have an opportunity to review this plan?
Yes, I did. I was involved with Jim Henry as they were developing this revised exhibit.
And have you done a revised circulation plan?
Well, I've analyzed it. I mean, our traffic study speaks to on-site circulation, and based on my testimony, I've reviewed this plan and I'm comfortable that it's been designed safely and efficiently.
Thanks. With regard to the circulation plans provided, I did not see a tractor-trailer circulation plan or a vehicle of that size.
Well, this was developed with that under consideration. We can provide that to your office to confirm the design proposed.
Okay. On the circulation plans provided, you are showing some the garbage trucks, fire trucks that have to cross mount curbs, I guess, and cross into oncoming traffic.
There was, as far as the larger vehicle, the WB-50, when it exited out of the site on the south side of the building to make a right turn onto Joan Warren Way, based on my recollection, the encroachment was onto the median, but not to the opposing traffic flow. So again, as we're making the right turn out of the driveway, as you're coming out of the drive-through, the right turn on the Joan Warren Way would have the vehicle encroaching into the striped median, but not the opposing lane.
So, coming in off Market Street, the vehicle is crossing the stop bars of the vehicles exiting your site.
Right. And
Both stop bars, and the vehicle's coming out of Taco Bell. Looks like it's hitting the curbs at the drive-through, which we talked about delivery times, which I think they're going to go and get or discuss with the client, the delivery times. If there's vehicles in the drive-through, maneuvering.
they can maneuver around vehicles in the drive-through. That's why on this exhibit that's on the screen or on the board, on the easel here, is that we've enlarged the pavement area, I'll say, in the southwest corner of the building, so that that larger truck can negotiate around the building and not encroach onto the drive-through lane. And we'll provide that.
And that's
exhibit.
on these revised plans, correct?
That's based on these revised plans, correct?
And just for the board's information, we have not had an opportunity to review these plans.
And it was based on a WB-50 mark, based on input from Taco Bell.
A WB-50 is what size vehicle?
It's a tractor trailer with a 48-foot trailer, and
So
then
it's
the cab.
52
So it's a 50-foot wheelbase, as recognized by NJDOT.
And that will be able to navigate through the parking lot if it
That's-
comes off Joan Warren.
It'll enter in off of Market and exit onto Joan Warren. We have Jim just advised me, we have the exhibit. I mean, we can provide that.
Fine. And they'll be revised, the existing exhibits that you provided with the application will be revised based on the revised plan.
For the other design vehicles that we use, correct.
So I do have one more thing. The drive-through closest to the building, I guess the queuing line where the message boards are, the menu boards are, the left-hand queue line, the curb, when you place your order, you're sort of right on top of the curb line. Yeah, I'm not looking at that now. I'm looking at the drive-through. When you place your order in the left lane, you're right on top of the curb and you got a sharp turn to the right. And that radius be opened up a bit. You see what I'm looking at when you're sitting at the order board?
At this location?
Yeah, you're you're trying to make a right and then you're making a left, going through that S curve there. It seems kind of tight, but if you can take a look at that.
We can take a look at it and amend it as necessary.
Thanks. I think that's all I had
Okay,
for you, Scott.
thank you.
Thank you. I have more. I'm still going. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. And I believe the planner indicated that he reviewed the revised plans.
Yes.
I guess my question to the planner, he wants to come back up, is there any new variances or additional variances triggered by the revised plan?
No, there are not.
Thank you. The square footage of the building, 2195 square feet. Is that including the outside area?
No,
And if not, what would be the total square footage?
2407, if you included the outdoor area, which is not standard practice.
Okay, I think that's an important number to have on a record in a resolution for our construction department.
Sure.
With regard to the outside area, any bollards proposed, the proximity to the driveway, any entrance, any form of protection there?
Yeah, I think we testified that we can add bollards.
You will have bollards?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Line of sight leaving the drive-through. When you come out of the drive-through and you look to the left, you're looking at the outdoor area. As far as a clear line of sight.
We can provide sight triangles to show that you're able to see the car coming.
Okay. Hours of operation that were talked about, that'll be listed on the plans once that's clarified?
Yes.
Thanks. As well as delivery hours, please.
Yes, and I did speak to our client. We are amenable to restricting overnight deliveries, if that's what the board was concerned with.
So when we say that, what does that mean?
I would
Just
say
sorry, but
like 10:30 to 6 a.m. or so.
10:30 to 6 a.m. no deliveries.
Yeah.
Okay.
You also revised light pole locations. We'll get revised, a full set of revised plans based on these revisions.
Yes, correct.
With regard to the stormwater management, you indicated that you are below, you reduced the motor vehicle surface area,
Yes.
where based on the plans provided, there was an increase in the motor vehicle surface area. You're representing that the revised plans have reduced that. I mean, subject to my review, if it is a reduction, then I would agree with you that you would be exempt under the new stormwater regs. However, based on the information I have, it's still an increase. So,
No, the percentage goes up, but when you look at the square footage on the site, the square footage goes down. So if you look at the motor vehicle surface area, originally, I think it was 45,921, and then we're proposing 45,481. So we're reducing the motor vehicle surface area. The square footage of the overall lot was reduced. The original lot area was 3.28, and we're now proposing 3.23.
and that's based on the revised plan that's up on the screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the plan submitted showed an increase though. So
Correct.
we
So
will review the revised plans. Should the board approve it and moves forward, we'll review that. And however, I reserve, right to review your revised plans to,
Sure.
confirm what you're representing. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have at this point. They've agreed to meet the rest of the comments in the review letter. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. The infiltration basin, you're agreeing to do whatever modifications are required to the infiltration basin to get that thing functioning, to get it functioning to the design criteria
Yes, per the original approval, right?
for the original design as well as what you represent in your drainage report.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have right now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions? Mr. Lupo?
Let me ask you, Mr. Henry. Let's say the cars that are at the picking up food on the drive-through. Many a times, I know it even happened with me. They're backed up, a machine breaks, something happens, they tell you, can you move up there and wait and park up there? Where do they go? Where do they park? That runs into a problem.
So we don't have a space delineated. I can talk to our client if they're willing to delineate a space where we could have it where they come.
Yeah, it's important. And also, what was your reasoning why you have a driveway coming in and going out? Incoming is using the same driveway as outgoing. Wouldn't you think it would be feasible or more safety to put the driveway on the northern side of the building since you already have the driveway on the southern part? And so in other words, the cars ain't coming head to head. You have their own driveway going out and another driveway coming in.
Are you referring to the driveway on Joan Warren Way?
Yeah.
I think it's good design practice that the roadways line up. So even though it looks a little bit offset, but we designed that so that they're exactly lined up.
Well, that's all well and good, but wouldn't you think it'd be a lot more safer just to move it up a bit to the northern side and make your own driveway? So that's going in and it follows the flow, and then outbound, you don't have to worry about another car coming at you instead of using the same driveway.
I could let our traffic engineer get into that if you want.
I would like that, yeah, because that would make sense.
Again, so I understand the question. You're looking for the driveway in Joan Warren Way to be one way instead of two way as we have it?
Absolutely, for a safety purpose. And if,
Again, it's my opinion based on the low speeds that we have in this area with the driveway and on Joan Warren Way, because traffic is just coming off of 33, that it can function efficiently and safely without having to route everybody up to Market and bring them around behind the drive-through. So I'm trying to, the design here is to allow customers who are destined for the store itself to be able to, if they're coming off of 33. Now, again, only approximately 40, maybe 45%, maybe 50% of our traffic is coming from Route 33. They would make, if they're going to the store, they would make the left into that driveway and then access the parking spaces closest to the store entry, rather than doing a circuitous route.
no, I don't mean that. I mean, just leave it right where it's at and just leave one driveway where you have it, and just the width of the building on the north side, put another one in. So each has their own separate driveways.
Well, again, if we add another driveway on Joan Warren Way is what I understand you're requesting,
Yeah.
then we're going to lose parking spaces, and then you're creating another conflict point as someone is entering the site into the parking area. We're kind of trying to consolidate the number of
Basically,
entry and exit points.
they have that at McDonald's. When you come out, they have their own driveway. The main road comes in, they have another driveway coming in. So you don't have that. All I'm trying to do is prevent two cars coming at each other. I understand one stays to the left and one stays to the right, but when you deal with kids and things can happen 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm only trying to be from a practical point of view as far as safety. I think it's
I mean, I'll defer to the board. It's my opinion that this design is safe and efficient and works well with this use and the parking layout. Obviously, we're subject to the board's recommendations.
Thank you. No more questions.
Hold on, Lou.
No, I actually, and I appreciate that the board engineer already asked for some of that striping in that corner. That was my first concern looking at this proposal, is that there's 2 lanes coming in. It seems like 3 lanes going out, and it just looks confusing. And I'm worried about people pulling out of leaving the pickup area and somebody coming in, and how are they not conflicting with each other? And then you've got the seating area there, and you've got the EV stations right around the corner. It just seems like a lot going on in that area, and they're not exactly lined up right.
Well, again, this exhibit doesn't exactly show. I mean, we had discussed internally, and it's kind of difficult with the coloring on the aerials, but basically this, and we obviously be subject to the board engineer's review, the striping at the east side of the building be modified, so this is merged to basically 1 lane. And then there would be skip lines that would direct traffic to the stop bar. So there would be additional striping that wasn't conveyed on here because it would get too busy if we start showing all that on here. But there's additional striping that we had discussed internally within the last week to better organize and have the exiting traffic get to the stop bar and not be in conflict with entering traffic.
I'm going to defer to our board engineer, who obviously knows more about this than I do, but
I don't like it.
and I understand it's a concern to bring too many driveways farther closer to the next corner also. So it's a tough area. I don't know what the answer is, but I just want to confer with Mike. I'm also concerned about it.
And I guess I'll just add another point. You mentioned about EV spaces and just having too much. We can move the EV spaces to another location so it's not competing with the other activities in that area as well. Again, just for the board's consideration.
Mr. Chairman, to Scott, the striping you show at the leaving the drive-through lane, can that be a curb? Can that be a curb line instead of just a stripe?
It can be a
The more
curb line, or we can do
channelized-
different texture do as concrete, but we could add curbing there, and that'll still allow the large wheelbase vehicles to circulate around the building. So to better encourage direct traffic, yes, we can work that with Mr. Henry and your
I
office.
think maybe a curb line will help channelize the cars to, avoid the concerns that the board has.
Okay.
If we can do that, and I think it still allows your vehicle access, the large vehicles, because they would be going straight out the exit out to Joan Warren Way.
That's correct.
I have a question for Mark. Mark, where are the cars? After the question I posed to Mr. Henry, they don't have any. At least that's what he said. So the cars that are pulling out from getting their food and the place is backed up. They said, can you go up there and wait 5 minutes? Now you got incoming cars coming, but you have no place to park.
Well, I don't know that I heard an answer to that question.
He says they're going to work on it. They don't have anything right now.
We'd have to assign spaces. My thought are probably spaces along Joan Warren Way, that are just to the west of Joan Warren Way.
Would that be
But again, we'd have to work that out with the operator, because they're, we're dealing with this on a daily basis. So, I mean, that's something that we can get back to you after talking with the operators.
But you do have that. You have like the mobile, and you have where sometimes someone will have to pull up and wait for their order, correct? Is that the normal fast
No,
food?
they don't have that.
So I just spoke to our client. We can designate one of the spaces in front.
And that's why I'm saying, as far as the driveway is concerned, if it's just going out, that gives you some more space to have another driveway on the north side of the building. You know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but I also agree with Scott as far as the circulation. As you move the driveway closer, further to the north, all of a sudden, if you have the driveway right where my cursor is, kind of where there's the
No, I don't mean up there. I mean, Rich, can't you just make it on the north side of the building? Let's say the width of the building, because you've got you've got the quick, where the people are picking the food up right alongside the building. So just go on the other side of the building, which is the north side of the building, and bring it in, and then hook into your circulation pattern. Yeah.
it works better where there's less conflicts because you have people making a right out of here. But typically, you want to basically an intersection where they're all facing each other. When you have it offset like that, you have people making a left-hand turn that conflicts with people making a right-hand turn. They're not looking at each other. So typical engineering practice, I'm sure your engineer would agree, is typically you want all the conflicts to be limited to that one area.
Could you bend it? Or no?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would agree with their professionals on that driveway. If the curb line is provided as you're leaving the drive-through, and that opens up a wider radius there, and as long as you have clear line of sight with the outdoor eating,
yes,
I think the driveway functions much better and addresses your concern, Mr. Lupo. As far as if a car has to pull up,
I will agree. I did speak to our client in that little break, and we will add the pickup spot. That is a good idea, adding the pickup spot in front.
So as far as the pickup spot, the concern is where the EV space is, that is not an area for pickup spot, because anyone bringing the food out of the store has to cross the main driveway where you got cars coming in, cars exiting. So that's a no.
That was my exact comment to our client, and I said it's safer.
So you'd have to be by the handicap spots over there.
Add it next to the handicap spot, and that's where we're going to add it. Yep.
Okay.
So wait, that says mobile pickup right there, right? 2 spots?
The mobile pickup in the front, right.
Yes. So it's not going there then? Because those plans say it.
So it's not going to go there because they're requesting a change.
No, so the mobile pickup is where they're going to direct the pickups areas. So that's going to be those 2 spots directly in front.
I thought we said we weren't putting them there.
We can just call it pickup area instead of just calling it mobile pickup area.
Can you point to it on the
Sure.
plan just so we can?
So there's 2 spots to the right, to the east of the ADA stalls, which are pickup area spots, and we're going to designate them as just pickup in general. We're not going to designate them as mobile.
So I'm just saying, maybe it's an error in the plans where it says mobile pickup, 2 typical, right? And it
Yeah.
has them on Joan Warren Way.
No, they're pointed.
Oh, they're pointing over there.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're pointed to the 2
Gotcha.
spots next to the ADA.
Thank you.
And the green is the EV spaces.
The green is the EV spaces, and if the board feels that we have to move those, we can move those where they feel is appropriate.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
I am just about the berm. Can you clarify what you were talking about the berm before? We're not putting a berm in?
Sure. I'll just get the grading plan. Give me 1 second. So along Route 33, there's a retaining wall that runs along, obviously, the basin. And then there's also a sidewalk that runs along Route 33. Then there's the curbing to Route 33. So the inlet, roughly the grade drops down as you approach Joan Warren Way. So the lowest spot is roughly at the intersection of Joan Warren Way and Route 33. And then the top of the wall varies between, roughly it's about 115 or so. So there's a little bit of a jump as you go towards the basin itself. It jumps up to about 15 or 16 elevation, and then it drops down a little bit as you get towards the retaining wall. So there's not a huge hump, but there's a little bit of a hump as, between the curb line of Route 33 and the top of wall for the basin. And I actually, just from looking at it, thought it was actually more than what it shows on our survey, just because of the presence of the, I believe there's a fence, there's the retaining wall, there's trees, there's landscaping, and I believe there's also guide rail.
So does that roughly match what they have in front of Starbucks, or is it going to look uneven?
Yes, it's very similar, yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, I have a question. Being we clarified the delivery hours, does anyone know how long an approximate delivery takes to unload?
I do have that. I think it was 20 minutes. Yes, 20 minutes.
20? Okay, so there's not going to be a conflict with the tractor trailer leaving and the business being open at 7 a.m. If people are coming in for a breakfast meal, they're going to leave at the same
Right.
time.
No, there isn't a conflict. Although I will say I haven't gotten any breakfast burritos from Taco Bell yet. I haven't gone that route. They keep marketing it to me, but I haven't done it.
Are there any potential generators going in or anything of that nature?
There's none proposed. No.
Okay. Okay, that's it. I have no questions. Anyone, Mr. Tanzi?
One last question. During a snowstorm, where do you do the snow cleanup out there?
What our client will do is they'll likely contract with a landscaper, and then they'll likely push the snow within the grass areas around the perimeter of the site. Down behind where the trash enclosure is, there's some landscaping areas, and there's also the area which is adjacent to the bank, which is an area where we could use for snow piling.
That suffice?
I think so. Just looking at it, I'm assuming some of the landscape areas would also be used around the perimeter, but again, it would all obviously depend on how much snow we get. The last few years, I haven't seen much, But if we hit a 3-foot snowstorm, it might be, obviously it's going to require a lot more effort.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I have one final question, and then we're gonna go to a vote.
Public?
I'm sorry. Is there any reason why the zoning board, nor the planner, nor the board members have not received the new revised plan that's before us today?
I believe they were submitted, but yeah.
We did submit it to the board engineer in advance of tonight. I think he was away, so I'm not sure how much he.
Is it supposed to go through the office or the board engineer? The board engineer works for the board.
Well, we reacted to the review memos and putting these tweaks together that you
But
see
these
before.
tweaks prompted a lot of question marks here this evening, and
I understand.
the fact that my professional planner did not have previous viewing of this with her questions and her being a little skeptical, that puts the board in a compromised position to proceed with anything because she hadn't had ample time to review the proper documents.
Yeah.
And we basically heavily rely on our professionals as we're regular lay people.
Yeah, I was just explaining to you why the, completely revised plans weren't filed with the board. We reacted to the review memos, tweaked them, I think sent them to at least your engineer, if not the planner, and brought them tonight because they explain, our responses to your professionals essentially, which is, meeting their comments.
Okay. Anyone in the public wishing to be heard on this application, please come forward. Jim, I'm going to ask you to take your seat back, and we're going to let the public sit there. If you have anything you don't want anyone to see, please close it.
Very secretive stuff here.
I'm just,
If I could quickly just swear you in case you make comments instead of questions. You could raise your right hand. Do you swear any testimony you provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
George Gunkelman, Gunkelman,
bring them
5 Kelly Court, Monroe Township. Couple of things. I want to piggyback on what the chairman said. It's obvious out here that it's not fair to the board not to have up-to-date plans prior to the review. And it's not just the professionals, every member of the board to do their job, and not saying they didn't do it and do it well. And in fact, it's impressive how everybody fought through all that. But the idea of showing up here and taking up the board's time with a not up-to-date presentation, I don't get it. It's unprofessional. I'd like to go, first, I also need to apologize. I got here a little late, so I may ask questions about something that was covered. If so, just go on. In talking about runoff from new paving and impervious, does it go to the millstone? Or where does it go? The word infiltration was used. I'd like to understand a little better where it goes. And then there's the other question about what is being grandfathered or not, depending upon the amount of impervious that's added by this project. Can somebody
Counsel, I'm going to
answer
refer
that?
to your professional engineer to answer those questions. You could sit next to counsel, just grab that mic. I guess we'll take one question at a time. His first question is about the runoff. And then we're going to get into the impervious coverage.
Yeah, so there's two different basins that are existing today. There's an infiltration basin, which is located on the top or the northwestern corner of the basin area. So any water going in there will be partially infiltrated into the ground and then go into the groundwater. Then there's an extended basin, which is the area which consistently holds water. That area discharges into Route 33 into the DOT system. And then that system will then take it, to the nearest stream. I'd have to look at where that goes in order to answer your question about the Millstone River.
Okay, so that's not known. And what do we know about the adequacy of those off-site places? I mean, you don't have to miss enough meetings to know that on the news every night now is an extreme weather event all over the place. We had one in this township in the last few years that cost the town taxpayer money of millions of dollars to help remediate. And it was just simply a very heavy rain that the system did not cope with. So wanting to be grandfathered into an older requirement that that your existing plan might not meet the credentials for doesn't seem to me the direction we want to go in. I think we want to go high rather than squeak in under an old requirement. We all know that we're having more and more of these extreme events. And it shouldn't be that it just becomes the town and the taxpayers' problem to recover from these. So that's just my.
So just to clarify, per the old rules, you were required to reduce the 2-year storm by 50%, the 10-year storm by the 10-year storm by 25%, and then the 100-year storm by 20%. So those are the old rules. So we were reducing what was existing under the old rules. The rules just got a little more complicated. They allowed certain type of basins and the last revision. So we're not increasing the amount of flow for the 2, 10, or 100 year based on the stormwater report that was submitted to your professionals and was reviewed by your engineer. Additionally, the water that's discharged out to Route 33, that's subject to review by the DOT, and that was reviewed and approved by the DOT to confirm that the infrastructure within Route 33 has proper conveyance for that stormwater that is being discharged from our basins. So there's several different layers here. Obviously, you have your municipal ordinance, which we comply with. We have the state level, which we comply with. There is a caveat in the state level that allows us to revert back to the old rules. The old rules did not allow us to discharge more stormwater off the site than what had previously existed. So we met those rules as far as the previous design, and we did submit the stormwater report to your engineer, which showed those calculations.
Chairman, if I could just add to that as well. Under the requirements, and to reiterate some of the things that the engineer has already said, they are exempt. Based on the previous approval, the basins are built. The previous approval took into account a total impervious coverage for this site. And then there's some criteria in order for it to be exempt that certain changes did not happen. So one is they did not increase the impervious. Had they increased the impervious coverage, then that would trigger the new stormwater regs, the most recent ones. So they did not increase that. And then there's there's about a half a dozen items, and if there were any of those changes, they would not be exempt. So the only one that raises an issue, they do meet the exemption, except for the one that we've talked about, which is the regulated motor vehicle surface area. So based on the original plan, that increased. So that would trigger the new stormwater regs, and they would have to go back and, make some modifications, minor modifications. It may trigger. However, based on the revised plans, it's been represented that they've actually reduced that motor vehicle surface area. So thereby, and subject to my verification and review of that plan, if they have reduced that surface area, then they are exempt and they meet all the exemption allowances of the stormwater regulations.
Understood. Who maintains the basins?
Association. Yeah, the association maintains it. And then I'm sure there was operation and maintenance manual that likely was recorded when this site was originally developed.
Right. The plan represents it's a master property owners association.
I do have to comment that it's very nice to say that you got DOT approval. Route 33 was shut down within the last month from flooding. So much for their capacity. It's not there. Or they wouldn't have had to shut the road. Moving on, there's some confusion about who's the client here, if it's the property owner or the would-be tenant. But my question is, what provision is there for spillage? There's cooking oil that's going to go somewhere on a regular basis. I assume there's storage containers. What provision is there in the plan to prevent spillage? Are there berms around where those mini dumpsters that they use for cooking oil? What is going to protect the surface runoff oil that we don't contaminate the ponds and all the places they go to?
Sure. We are proposing a 1,000-gallon grease trap, external grease trap outside of the building. All of our sinks and anything that is exposed to grease or cleanup areas is run through there, and then the grease trap captures the grease and then is removed on an as-needed basis. I'm sure, as many of you are aware, I think you have one of the most diligent MUAs in the state of New Jersey, and they have very detailed reviews and do check a lot of the sewerage to confirm there's no sort of dumping on site.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just add to that, where is that shown on the plan? Where is that? And how is that going to be emptied?
On the utility plan, there's a 1,000-gallon grease trap shown behind the building, and then there's manholes on top of the grease trap, which is how you remove the grease from the underground grease trap.
Okay. And that's the responsibility of the property owner or the operator / client? You refer to them in different ways at different times.
Sure. So we're working for the property owner, and then there's the tenant who's the Taco Bell operator. So I'm unaware of the agreement, but it's going to be either the property owner or the Taco Bell operator that will be in charge of removing it. My guess is it's probably the Taco Bell operator, but I'd have to confirm with our client.
Can we, is it possible to request that it be recycled?
I'm going to go on a limb without knowing anything and say that it falls under the jurisdiction of the owner of the building, meaning the tenant who's using the building, because they're producing the grease trap grease. Normally, there is an outside contractor that comes in and they pump it out with a pumping truck, and whatever they do with it is their business. They're supposed to dispose of it correctly. Some people steal used oil, cooking oil, because they could use it for diesel fuel.
Right.
So that's another factor. So we're speaking about
hard to steal when it's under.
We're speaking about, that we have a holding area for used oil.
No, we're not proposing that. It would just be removed directly from the grease. Similar to what you were describing, it would be put directly into a grease truck grease truck that would come and clean out the grease trap.
Oh, cooking oil doesn't go in a grease trap.
No, I'm saying as far as interior of the building you're talking about? Yeah, I could talk to our client as far as where that's stored.
So if we empty a fryer,
right,
usually maybe hypothetically 5 gallons for it to be picked up.
Would you like me to clarify?
You'd have to come up and get sworn in?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, that's all I had.
Thank you.
Sir, if I could swear you in quickly, do you swear any testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you could just state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address.
John Tomasulo, Tomasulo. I'm the franchisee Taco Bell operator. There are two things that you've really been talking about. One is the grease trap. It gets the flow of the water. The grease goes down. That gets pumped out at least every 6 months by a reputable company. We use Wind River right now, and we have 5 restaurants. We do this all the time. The health department reviews all the reports to make sure the grease trap is functioning correctly and that that's taking place. Second, excuse me, second issue is the cooking oil. We have a tank inside the restaurant that holds the used cooking oil. We have a company called Darpro, comes periodically, and there's a port in the side of the building. They hook up a hose to that port and they draw it out of the tank. The grease never goes outside the old way, and the drums that were out in the dumpster area that made a mess, and you're right, they come and steal it and make a mess. So we eliminate that by having this system inside the restaurant. So the used cooking oil never leaves the restaurant until they pump it out.
So basically, the answer to the question is that the grease traps in a normal condition would be on the floor within the kitchen. Yours is going to be outside in a larger.
It's a 1,000-gallon grease trap.
Right, so it's going to run outside in lieu of
tank.
being in, so they can come at any time to pump it out.
And they usually come early to do that because it doesn't smell pretty.
Okay. Anyone else in the public wishing to be heard, come forward? Seeing there's none, I make a motion to close the public portion. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public portion is not closed. Board members, we have an application before us. However, before I put it out to a vote, I'm gonna make one last comment to the board. Considering the circumstances that took place here tonight, I'm gonna make a motion if we do proceed for preliminary site plan approval only. I think our professional engineer, or I should say our professional planner needs some time to review everything. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to this board that we haven't had a chance to see everything. So therefore, if we do make a motion, it would be for preliminary site plan only. It will not be for final site plan.
Mr. Chairman, could I just take a moment to discuss with my client?
Take 2 moments.
Yeah, thank
There's
you.
a motion on the table. I put something forth. So at this point, I don't think consulting with your.
Well, I might be proposing an alternative that works as well or better.
Yeah.
I just have a moment.
Okay. So right, we would do everything but the final.
Which would require,
You go right ahead and speak to your client.
which would require a subsequent application for final site plan approval?
Correct.
Okay, can I just talk to my client?
Yes, you may.
Doesn't make a difference.
The open end.
That's
Mr. Chairman, if I could, oops, sorry. I guess initially, just to make clear our intent in submitting the revised drawings, again, as I said before, it was to respond to the review letters of your professionals. We didn't want to ignore them. We could have come tonight and just addressed them on the fly, but we thought it was better to do what we did, which is to tinker with them and show the results of the tinkering to meet your consultant's concerns. That said, what I would propose to you, rather than just voting on preliminary tonight and requiring us to come back in the future with the final site plan application, because, we have a tenant here that we're trying to meet his needs, is to suggest to the board that you make no decision tonight and that we come back next month. And within that month, your consultant certainly, and you, whoever, would have the opportunity to further review those revised plans, the tinkered plans, that I think were already submitted to your engineer, but on a formal basis, so that at that time you can consider everything and vote on both preliminary and final for the Taco Bell. So, and the variances, and that's what I would request.
So, Mr. Chairman, just from a scheduling perspective, we do have another applicant who is already on. Sorry.
Your name?
Oh, sorry. Kevin McGowan. Just from a scheduling perspective, Mr. Chairman, we do have another applicant who's been carried to the July meeting who will need quite a bit of time and will likely, if not almost definitely, take our entire portion of the July meeting. I'd be wondering if the applicant would be amenable to being our first applicant up at the August meeting, which I don't have the date off the top of my head, but that's sort of where we are from a scheduling point of view. Sorry, Lori. It'd be August 27th.
So, again, that was just my recommendation. I'm going to leave it to the board. If the board wishes to proceed based on what was transpired today, based on what Mark's testimony was, based on what Mika was able to communicate to us and put forward, if someone makes a motion, we'll move forward. If someone doesn't wish to make a motion and they wish to go with what I said, that's fine as well, but I'm going to leave it to the board, however they choose.
Mr. Chairman, I think your recommendation was very good, even though it's going to be perhaps 2 months. I think there was a lot of details that we went over this evening. Even these plans that you presented, we've tweaked them again. So I think to give the applicant the 2 months to get not just this, but to put on what we talked about this evening, get it all in a plan, let our engineer and our planner review it one more time and have it be clean. And that's going to save you time in resolution compliance in the end anyway. So get it all on the paper, let everybody review it. I think, get them on the August agenda and hopefully it'll be a quick meeting and everything can be approved and will have been reviewed. I think that moves you along the most quickly. I think that's fair to our professionals and it lets the board see everything that was agreed to this evening and that it makes sense.
Okay, board members, we have the application in front of us. Do I have a motion?
What do we want to
Do you
carry?
want to carry? Well, a motion to carry. We'll
Yeah.
have to make a
So
motion.
I'll move to carry it.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Wait, sorry, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, this is a motion to carry to the August meeting.
August meeting.
Correct.
Mr. Carroll, the applicant would extend the board's time to act until the end of August.
I have to,
They expire in September, so I don't have to worry about that. Even better.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Lupo?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Busman?
Yes.
Ms. Caratori? Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Chairman LaFata?
Yes.
it's carried to what date?
August.
August.
August 27th, no further notice, so anyone here for BA 5248-24, CT07 Shared Commercial LLC and DT07 Shared Commercial LLC, that application will be heard at the board's August 27th
2024 meeting, 7 p.m., sorry, 6:30 p.m. in this room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, board members, we still have some work to do. Okay, memorialization of application BA-5221-22. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, application for memorialization as well, BA-5230-22, 3C Sac Self Storage. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone in the public wishing to be heard this evening on any topic, any matter, please come forward. Please come forward, state your name. We'll get you sworn in. Okay.
Come on.
Thank you. My name is Paul Lano.
You're good. You don't have to swear yet.
Anyway, 131 Pergola Avenue. There's some project going on next door to me at 135 Pergola Avenue. When I bought my house in 2017, it was explained to me that the property next door didn't have enough street frontage. The original owner offered to buy a small section of the front of my property to increase the street frontage to make it a legal building plot. I see there is advanced construction going on there right now, and I'm curious, was there a variance issued for this construction?
Do you have any knowledge of this?
Mr. Chairman, so there's a house being built there. It has building permits, and as far as I know, there was no variances to the board. I don't believe any were required based on what he's building.
Is there ample street frontage to make it a legal building plot? Was explained by my attorneys when I bought the property.
I don't have their plan in front of me, but based on that they were issued building permits, I would say there is. However, I'll give you my card, and you can give me a call tomorrow, and you can stop in my office. I'm right down the street from there.
Again, if everything is legitimate, and it's on the up and up, that's fine. I mean,
yeah.
I certainly understand.
The answer is yes. I know some of the history with that property. At one time, this is only one single-family home being built there.
That's correct.
Up on Pergola Ave.
Right.
At one time, they were marketing that property and trying to get multiple lots.
Correct.
So in order to do that, they would have needed to get a road in along the property from Pergola.
Right.
So I think at that time, what you may be referring to is they needed more frontage in order to fit a house and a road to get to another house behind the front house.
Okay.
That's what I recollect. So that might have been at that time.
That sounds like a reasonable answer.
Yeah, that was abandoned. I know they were looking at multiple lots they wanted to get in there, and they would have needed a road to get off of Pergola.
Okay.
So now it's just the existing home, and yes, they have ample frontage based on they have their building permits.
Okay.
And if there's any,
it was a very simple,
yeah,
whatever. I just want to make sure that everybody understood, or at least I did, that what was represented may have changed.
Yep. And if there's any questions, call my office, the engineering office, and I'm right down the street.
Not a problem.
Feel free.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming out.
Anyone else in the public wishing to be heard? Seeing there's none, I need a motion to close the public portion.
Motion to close?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to the attorney at this point.
Well, yeah, it's Mr. Chairman. There's a matter that regarding pending litigation that needs to be discussed in executive session. I would ask the board make a motion to enter executive session so that we can do that.
Okay, I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. So
Okay, so open the door.
I don't think anybody's happy.
Executive session. I need a motion to enter back into the meeting. Do I have a
I'll
motion?
make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're back in session. Are there any correspondences that have to be discussed? None. Seeing there's none, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good 4th of July.
Make sure you give these to
Hey.